Um, well, I guess we're talking about 2023
I know.
tonight
Yeah, we're talking about
instead.
that time so long ago. It's a post-COVID,
Yikes!
but pre Op. No, I guess it wouldn't be pre-Oppenheimer because Oppenheimer did come out last year. What would it be a
Yeah,
pre-world?
post-COVID,
Yeah, post-COVID, pre-Dune
pre-Dune 2.
Part 2. There we go. Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah, pre-Dune 2.
Yeah,
Anyway. But yeah, how have
yeah.
you boys been?
Um, pretty good, pretty good.
Oh,
Busy working.
yeah. I
Picked up
yeah.
a couple clients.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Uh,
I have growling puppies,
uh,
but
uh,
I've been good though.
yeah. Besides, like what? Falling down the stairs and breaking your nose. Like, how did you do that again?
Oh God, yeah.
My prosthetic leg flung me off the top stair of 3 steps down out of a plaza that I was in, and I smashed my shoulder into the ground and then hit my nose. But I was protecting my head though,
Ah,
so
Sheesh.
yeah, so broke my nose. And
my
the
God.
nose is pretty much healed. Like it seems fine. It's a little sore if I touch it, but
Uh,
JoJo, it's fine. But my shoulder is still pretty messed up.
yeah.
So I'm
That's
doing
crazy.
physio for it.
Yeah. Well, damn, dude. But yeah, it's a good thing. It could have been a lot worse, to be fair. I mean, because like if you had
Oh yeah.
like hit your back or something like at a weird angle, that could have
Yeah.
really done a number on you. Um, but yeah, I guess let's jump right into it. Lofty, what is your number 5?
Well, this was I rearranged it a little bit today, just thinking about it, so giving myself some more time. But the this comes after. I'm just going to recap my top 10 quick. It was Pluto, Past Lives, Anatomy of a Fall, Ranking of Kings, and The Bear. Um, so this is just a step up from that, which would be Oppenheimer because he just mentioned it.
There you go.
But that it happens to be my number 5. Oppenheimer. Do you guys have that on your list? I'm
It
assuming
was
somebody does.
my honorable mention. Killers of the
Oh,
Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and I think one other movie were honorable mentions.
hmm.
Yeah.
Mark, you don't have
Yeah,
that, I guess.
not on mine. I mean, I liked Oppenheimer, but I don't know. It wasn't one of my favorites of the year. I didn't have any real major problems with it. It's just I don't know. It was fine.
Yeah,
Good movie.
I've seen it twice. It's better the second time. Actually, the first time is yeah, Oppenheimer is kind of nuts. The first time I saw it in theaters, I was blown away by the music. It was the editing sequences with the music montage stuff in the beginning and the middle, and then some of the other sequences were really good in the theater. But as far as following the storyline, and paying attention to what everybody was saying, it's such a dense script.
Yeah.
It's just better the second time. It's so much easier to follow.
Huh. I need to
Um,
watch it again then.
yeah, because the first, I'm not gonna lie, the first time I was I was struggling because I should have done some research a little bit before, just to familiarize myself with like the Communist Party and all that stuff, like in that around that time.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just a little bit of a. It wasn't Tenet levels of confusion, but
Yeah.
it was a little unclear the storytelling. But
Yeah.
I just freaking love every performance in that movie. I love the cinematography.
Yeah.
Well, the performances are like just perfect. Every single character.
Yeah.
Emily
Cillian Murphy
Blunt.
is
Yeah,
so
I was
good.
about to say Emily Blunt
Yeah,
was great. She was kind of
Emily
the
Blunt was
show stealer.
great, but she was she didn't have enough screen time
Well,
well, she
I
had
kind of
enough,
I
but
sort of like that sometimes. Like when a good
yeah,
performance is just a few scenes in the movie. Like it's a
exactly.
character who's important to the story, but the focus isn't on them. So them being played by a really good actor still kind of makes sense because it's like, well, I mean, this person is important. They are a character that matters,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Well,
they're not a focal point of the film. You know.
well, like Marlon Brando was only in Apocalypse Now for like 10 minutes.
And
Yeah,
that's
you could
one of the
argue
most
that
arresting performances I think I've ever seen.
also, you could argue though that he's also the primary
He's
antagonist of that
he,
movie. So it's
he
like, I mean, if the movie
yeah,
has an
his spirit
antagonist,
is
it's
in
the
the whole movie. He's the
protagonist.
Yeah.
well, yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, no, Apocalypse. We can't.
yeah,
Apocalypse Now is that's a
that's a
deep
deep
dive
dive.
because
Yeah.
and in order to talk about Apocalypse Now, honestly, you have to have recently read Heart of Darkness.
Yeah, Heart of Darkness for sure.
Mhm.
It's a great
because
book. Joseph
it's
Conrad.
it's a really it's a pretty straight up adaptation of it actually.
It's straight. It's just in Vietnam
Yeah,
instead of the
and
Congo.
it works surprisingly well.
It's yes,
Yeah.
and that's just great adaptation. I mean,
Yeah.
I like how Kurosawa adapted Shakespeare into Japanese culture, and it just translates flawlessly. That's how I felt
Mhm.
about Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
It's the
Um,
beauty of cultural appropriation. It's how we
Yeah.
get cool stuff like Dragon's Dogma, a Japanese video game about like
Yeah, of the West.
northern European mythology.
Yeah,
But I mean, or
Um,
Elden Ring or Dark Souls, like that, or Berserk. That's all a
exactly. They're
Japanese
all
perspective on European history and
medieval-
mythology. Yeah,
medieval
Mhm.
and
culture.
I think that's it's so cool. To
Record
see.
of Lotus War.
Oh,
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah.
Well, the Dollars
Uh,
trilogy. The Dollars trilogy came about because Sergio
For,
Leone liked Yojimbo,
Yes,
basically
Sanjuro,
made a
yeah.
Western version of it, and that spawned, a trilogy of Westerns that are classics,
Yep, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Oppenheimer for me is maybe Christopher Nolan's best movie. It's really tough because I need to go back and watch The Prestige again because that was always my favorite.
Yeah, Prestige is
Um,
really
Yeah,
good.
that's a good
and-
pick. That's
yeah,
a really great Christopher Nolan movie.
my only problem with Nolan is like I've never thought any of his movies were like flawless. They've always had some issues.
Yeah,
I think
mean,
all of them.
most
have-
movies do have some
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
but
It's okay to like a movie that has issues, though.
oh yeah, it's
Fine.
true. I do not think Oppenheimer has almost any issues though. I can see where some people think it might be too dialogue heavy or a little bit too confusing to follow, or maybe they're I don't know. I just don't think it has any problems. I think the ending is one of the most haunting endings I've ever seen. I think it's Cillian Murphy's performance and him looking kind of down below the camera. It's just so freaking the cinematography
His performance
is
is really
delicious.
good. Yeah.
Yes. He is so good in that movie.
Yeah, he
that
is.
he like spawned this entire Oscar campaign run for a bunch of like he has a bunch of stands like a K-pop star almost.
Yeah.
And if you paid attention during the Oscar season, he had all these people making like fan cams of him and shit. And it's like, yeah, he has like this cult following that he finally got a big role. He's always been fantastic. Peaky
Yeah.
Blinders is his best performance in my opinion.
I've not seen Peaky Blinders.
I need to
so
see it. I
after-
need to see
After
it.
watching
Yeah,
The
dude.
Gentleman, I might have a bit of a taste for British crime drama.
Oh, this is Peaky Blinders is my favorite top three. It's up there with
I know it's a lot more
yeah.
serious than The Gentleman is. The Gentleman's kind of a
Yeah.
comedy in a lot of ways, but I mean, I don't know,
it's a
good.
dark-
Have you seen it?
no,
Watch it?
not yet.
Oh my
not
god,
yet.
watch it. Yeah, you
I
will
know.
really love it. It's
It's on my list for sure.
yeah, Susie
yeah.
Glass. Honestly, she's up there with like all-time best written female characters.
Oh,
like,
wow.
for like strong woman characters.
I need to watch
And
it.
She's written in a way that is like she's not a girl boss. She's a woman who has a lot of power, and you can tell.
Yeah,
Because she doesn't flaunt it. She just
That's-
uses it, and it's brutal when
That's a good
when she
character.
needs to. It's it's a good stuff. A good
I
show.
will say, like, in terms of Oppenheimer, I will say one of the
Yeah.
maybe the most haunting thing Nolan has ever filmed
Yeah.
is the sequence when Oppenheimer is giving his speech in front of those people. It's just like, I wish we'd been able to use it on the Nazis, and they're all cheering, and then it kind of like cuts out the audio, and he's like basically having a panic attack.
Yeah, he's saying things that he thinks that he has to say at the moment, but he
Yeah.
clearly doesn't want to say them.
Yeah.
He's like, and the Japs, it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, but he knows he's basically not even in character at that point. He's like just going with emotions.
Yeah.
and he loses his mind,
Yeah.
and it's so well. There's one specific angle of the camera that is like facing him,
Yeah.
and the background's like very jittery. And it looks
Mhm.
like a special effect, but it's or a visual effect, but it's genius. I watched the behind the scenes documentary, and they took a projector with a photograph of the background behind him, and they overlaid it on top of it, so it's a little bit off. And then they shook the projector. So
That's cool.
it's I've never seen any effect like it. It's insane.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The sequences where he's looking at the particle effects like in real time,
Yeah.
of like he's like deconstructing matter in front of his face. It's supposed to be like sort of symbolic or like in his head.
Yeah.
But they actually like there's these like spinny strings that represent like string theory or something.
Mhm.
And Nolan or somebody is in front of the camera shaking this thing around in a circle, and it's literally on camera. All that shit is on camera. It's insane.
Yeah.
So all that stuff's amazing. I just think the dialogue is maybe his best script. I think he has some weak scripts. Sometimes he fails to like hit certain emotional heights with me.
Yeah.
Sometimes his characters are very maybe comic booky is like an okay way to phrase it, but like I don't know. I think McConaughey's maybe his best like emotional character in Interstellar, but this movie just had some really really good dialogue.
Yeah.
And then the music is just incredible. I don't even know how the guy Ludwig is made one of the best scores like in the past 20 years.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I listen to it all the time. I still have it. So yeah, it's just sort of a miracle what Nolan did for theaters, what he did for rated R films, and what he did for the 3-hour movie. It's like all of these things were going against it, and it's so popular.
Yeah.
And everybody's sort of, even like Zoomers are like excited about it.
Yeah.
For some reason. And he was just able to like make something that's like just powerful and it's just it's hard to wrap your head around like the legacy of that movie. It's going to be interesting for his career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now he can just do whatever he wants. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. He just made $1 billion.
Yeah, I am curious to see what he does next.
Well,
but yeah.
I don't know that I like now.
Well, he already made a.
Well, no,
he already did the
I'm
Batman
saying,
movies.
Don't get me wrong. I know that Christopher Nolan's gonna have a good career. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
he won't, but I'm just saying that we might be exiting the era of once you win an award, you can then do whatever you want in Hollywood because of how strained finances are right now. Like, I don't know if they can afford to be giving like a $300 million chance on Christopher Nolan's passion project just because he won a statue, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, like,
I know what
I'm
you're
not saying
saying.
they won't, but
I heard him talk about this, and he actually said that he doesn't plan on doing anything low, like any low budget movies ever, because he said he feels a responsibility because of his position in Hollywood, which includes his access to IMAX, his theatrical appeal. He says he feels he said that he feels a responsibility
I think that's fair. Like,
to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, it's not like a bragging thing. It's like, but he's just, the reality is he draws people to the theater, and it's good for movies.
Yeah.
So he needs to keep doing expensive movies, and he knows this.
Although,
maybe they don't need to be $200 million.
Well, to be fair, was it even 200 million, or was it like 185 or something?
No.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that Oppenheimer had any larger a budget than, like, say, any stupid
100
Marvel movie, right?
It was $100 million budget.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. Yeah, I was like,
mean,
this.
honestly, and that's pretty reasonable. I think that we may be entering an era of much lower budget movies because
I know
which company is doing well right now, like Netflix.
Well, Universal's doing okay. They had a big year with Oppenheimer and Mario.
Yeah, I mean that's true.
So then, and they're not doing a lot of politically polarizing movies at all, really. Universal. So, but yeah, you're right. It's lower budgets are going to be important.
Yeah.
in going ahead. But yeah, that's my 5.
All right.
5.
Yeah, good deal.
I want it to be higher, but the things that I have above it are just better slightly.
Yeah.
KJ, can you recap my 10 to 6? I forget which order I put things in and what I haven't said yet.
Oh shit. I don't remember off the top of my head.
You had I think your 5 was reboots.
Yeah, the remakes, like remakes of the year for video games specifically.
Trying to remember your other ones.
Nintendo's output, the 3 Nintendo games that were really big.
Yep.
Did I do Chainsaw Man?
Yes, you did, I think.
Okay,
yes.
Chainsaw Man.
Yep.
Oh god, what else did I pick?
There was another anime. Wasn't there another anime or a movie or a show? Can't remember.
I mean, I've got a few of those. It's just I'm not sure which ones I haven't said
well,
yet.
if you say one that you've said before, we'll just tell you to pick the other one. Because I'll remember. I'll remember.
Well,
I just
here, I
can't
guess, you know what, here, this might not be a bad one to throw in at 5, just because I know it's going to be somewhere, and I don't think it's going to be number 1, even though it's a great movie. But I think Godzilla -1. Unless, have I said Godzilla -1 already?
No.
Okay. So, yesterday I watched Godzilla versus King Kong, and then I watched Godzilla X Kong New Empire.
New Empire.
Yeah. And
oh, you watched both?
Yeah, because I hadn't seen Godzilla versus Kong, and Metal Commander wants to cover the new one for Metal's Forge. So I figured, okay, I have to see that, and I was like, well, I don't know if I'm gonna need anything to know anything, but whatever, I'll watch it anyways. Had I not done that, the beginning of the new Godzilla movie would have confused me so much.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen these movies?
No.
Okay. If I say that a lot of this movie takes place in the Hollow Earth, what would that mean to you?
Oh, is that like?
I've seen it. The other one.
No, I'm saying to KJ. This
so
is a fun experiment.
If I remember correctly, the idea of a hollow Earth is essentially like, fuck. I think what it is, and I might be really just way off. I think it's like after you like dig down a certain depth, there's like a hollow area in the earth, and there's like plants and trees and all kinds of stuff.
It's Journey to the Center of the Earth. If you've ever
okay, but
seen
the
that.
thing is though, would you have expected that it's not at the very center, and it's not like a big open area with like a center of gravity? It's like a halo ring where there is jungle on both the ground and in the sky.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's very it's very strange.
The first thing you see in the new movie is King Kong like swinging around in this world, and I would have been like, what the fuck is going on here? Because they get to that world in Godzilla versus Kong. But anyways, one of the reasons why that experience yesterday of watching the two not good Godzilla movies was Godzilla -1 is a film that I watched last year. That is probably the best monster movie I've ever seen, like best kaiju movie.
That's a fair statement.
It is a wonderful story about heroism, about duty, sacrifice, guilt. Being like it's one of the, I have another one on here actually, but it's one of the best like post-traumatic stress stories that I've seen like in almost anything. And it's a major theme. Yeah, it's amazing that that's what Japan is capable of in a Godzilla movie when we were pumping exponentially more money into these movies that they seem like they were like drawn on the back of someone's lunchbox. Like they're just so silly. Like it's
like, silly.
Why can't we have a character like Koichi be like our main protagonist, or like does it have to be Millie Bobby Brown and like the dude like the black guy, the conspiracy theorist guy? Yeah, he's in the new one a lot.
I know. I'm editing Cynic's. I just edited Cynic's review for the movie, and I had to skim the entire movie. I don't like him. He's in too much. He's in way too much.
Yeah, it's really bad.
I like Dan Stevens though. He's a good actor.
I mean,
but unfortunately,
he's doing
what
they it's the writing I'm more concerned about. I'm not just like, oh, and then this guy, I hate that guy specifically. It's nothing like that. No, it's just the character's annoying. But Godzilla -1 didn't have that problem because it's a movie about with minor spoilers here, about a kamikaze pilot who in World War II abandons his duty. So he fakes a problem with his plane, and he lands his plane because he doesn't have the nerve to, or something makes him not want to do his suicide run for being a kamikaze pilot, where you have a plane loaded with explosives that you just fly into an American or a British ship and sink it. The thing is, though, it's presented from the Japanese point of view in a way that I don't think I've seen in a movie, at least recently. Where Koichi is not just saying, "Oh man, I'm happy I got out of that," and it's like it's a good thing I didn't die. He knows that culturally he was expected to give his life there,
Yes.
and that him not doing it is this the most shameful thing he can possibly do. Because what if there's people like the victims from the Tokyo fire bombings who become characters later in the movie actually blame him when he first gets home, and they say, "Yeah, my kids are dead because you didn't have the nerve to do your duty." Like, you could just imagine how horrible that would be to hear if your duty was to die, but ultimately you know that you can do better. You can do better being alive than you ever could.
Yeah,
dead. And that's
and the
just always
people
the truth.
and those people are wrong and they're delusional, basically.
But the thing is, though, like at that point in Japanese history, or at least the way they present it, is that was the cultural zeitgeist. That death is honor, and the best thing that you can possibly do is die in the honor of the emperor's name and the honor of Japan. And Koishi's story is just so incredible because he genuinely he feels suicidal and wants to die. He's constantly having nightmares through the entire movie, even to the point that he's looking away from the things that are bringing his life back together, because he meets this woman and she has a baby, and they eventually kind of become sort of a patchwork family, but they're not really together because he's too messed up to really open up like emotionally and have an actual relationship. And this is all stuff in a Godzilla film, by the way. And the Godzilla element is it's not just a cheesy kaiju to make a fun action movie where there's a big guy in a suit knocking over plastic buildings and a soundstage. It's Godzilla is the threat that tests Koichi's resolve and what it truly means to him to be a hero. And by the end of the movie, you're pumping your fist and clapping and cheering for what ends up going down, because it's just incredible. And I strongly recommend it. If you've not seen Godzilla -1, it is one of the best movies that came out last year for sure.
It was really good. I saw it this year because it only came to the Regal in Lexington in, I believe it was the first week of February, which is why it's not on the list. Otherwise, it probably would. Hey, so editing Kyle here. I made a mistake. I did see Godzilla -1 last year. I got it mixed up with the Iron Claw for some reason. I don't know why, and I don't know how, but yeah, I messed it up. I did see Godzilla -1 last year. Yeah, it was really, really good. Really, 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 really good. I'm glad that it won the award for special effects, which it really deserved. Yeah, great movie. Sorry. Back to the main video. It would have been. It was really good.
Yeah, dude. The best part of that movie, in my opinion, was the opening. It was terrifying. I thought. I don't know how I was not expecting the intensity of, or the quality of the special effects and the camera work with the perspectives of like the people on the ground and like the giant. It was so cool.
You have a sense of scale.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was small.
That's almost entirely lacking in this new Godzilla film. It just looks like a bunch of normal-sized CGI monkeys and lizards fighting each other.
I know, it's weird, dude. Until the end with the beach or whatever, but then you're like, oh, this thing's really big.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Godzilla's fantastic.
I swear Kong is constantly changing sizes in this series, though. Like,
yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, the -1 Godzilla is just, even though it's not, some of the special effects are like kind of dated. It's like, that's kind of how the genre always has been, so it doesn't even bother me. It's just like,
well, and I think that he was using dated techniques in order to do things cheap.
And yes, and it just happens to
like $10 million. Like, it was stupidly cheap.
And it just happens to line up with the aesthetics of all the other movies, so it doesn't even matter that it's not like, like that's kind of how it's like stop motion.
And when they really needed it to look really good, they did. Like they really saved up for the money shot when Godzilla is about to launch his atomic breath. Like that atomic breath is so good. It is so well set up.
Like a thermonuclear explosion.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It looks great. Yeah. No. I fully am on board with that. Yeah, it is a good movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, was Hi-Fi Rush one of my other ones?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
you already
Okay.
talked about Hi-Fi
Yep.
Rush.
Yep.
Yeah, so my number 5 is going back to anime, Trigun Stampede.
Ooh, I have to
Yeah,
watch that. I've never
so
seen it.
yeah, so my honorable mentions, of course, were like Demon Slayer, the Swordsmith Village arc. Like that's another anime. Um, my number
Yep.
10 was the Entertainment District arc of Demon Slayer. So like, and Attack on Titan was my number 7. So like several anime on here, and this isn't even the last one, by the way. There's another one after this. But
Yep.
Trigun Stampede was everything I wanted out of a Trigun, like, well, have you guys seen it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Half
No,
of
not
the
Trigun.
original
Not
Trigun.
the original, but not the new one.
Okay,
Yeah.
not the new one. Okay. Then I'll be
Or
somewhat
parts of the original.
okay. Then I will be somewhat guarded about what I say specifically about Stampede.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm going to watch it.
Okay, yeah, because a lot of the like, oh shit, oh
Yeah.
moments come from either reading the manga or having watched the original anime. The original
Sounds good.
Trigun anime, for me, that was either the second or the third anime I watched, like ever. I saw it like freshman year of
Yeah.
college or something. Like it was one of the first anime I watched.
Bebop, Trigun.
Yeah, Bebop,
Really sick.
Trigun, like Full Metal Alchemist, or like like the first
Yeah.
ones I watched. So
Mine was I was younger, but my friend showed me Record of Lotus War. I was like, "Whoa, this is so cool."
yeah,
I've been recommended that a lot.
Yeah.
Actually.
you should watch it.
Yeah.
It's really good. So when I heard that they were gonna do a new Trigun series and it was 3D animated,
Yeah.
I was like, oh
Got
man, I'm really hoping it's good.
Yep.
Because Trigun is one of those things that I still give a shit about.
Berserk 2016.
Well, Berserk
happened.
ruined it for everybody, but
Yeah.
but I think Titan like softened people's like anger towards CGI because Titan did such a good job.
After Chainsaw Man, I'm totally
And
sold on
Chainsaw.
CGI anime.
That's
'cause
what I'm
It
saying.
really
Yeah.
does look quite CGI-ish, like more so
but
than
it's
most
so
other
good.
anime. But it's awesome. It really
It is
suits
awesome.
the tone.
Yeah.
And also,
And
what,
Arcane,
have
yeah.
you guys seen
whatever.
Blue Eye Samurai?
Not yet.
Have I put that on? Was that on my list?
Not yet.
Yeah, I think it was actually. That was your other one.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
we
you
talked
did.
about Blue Eye Samurai.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The CG in Blue Eye Samurai to me turned me off in the trailer, but apparently I have to give it a watch because
No, it's kind of like Spider-Verse in the sense that you might be a little thrown off by it watching it for like a second, but if you sit there and keep watching it, it's like, oh, okay, this actually looks really cool. Especially
Gotcha.
because a lot of the stuff at the beginning of the story is pretty mundane too. So when the fights happen, you're just kind of blown away by how crazy like the camera work and everything gets. It's pretty good.
Better than Onimusha's CGI?
Yes, significantly.
Okay.
Although I didn't hate Onimusha.
I didn't hate it.
It looks like shit. It really doesn't
It
look good.
looks shit when characters are moving around, like when just walking. It looks terrible, but the action choreography looks good. I think.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The things that happen in the show are good. It's just the art style is bad, and it makes it a difficult recommend. I actually really like the story of it specifically because they did the thing with Onimusha where they take a real life legendary samurai, and this one it was Miyamoto Musashi.
Exactly.
And that was pretty cool.
So, by the way,
yeah.
Mark, I'm looking over all of the images I grabbed for the editing, and Blue Eye Samurai is not in here. So you have not talked about it yet.
Oh, I thought we did.
Nope,
Somebody
not yet.
Well, maybe just you and I have talked about it before.
Oh, okay, maybe.
It's fine. It's on my
We'll
list.
talk
Yeah.
about it.
I
We'll
really
talk
did
about
love it a
it.
lot.
But yeah, so like Trigun Stampede, it gripped me at the first episode. I was like, oh man, okay, that you're bringing it back. You're bringing it back because like Vash, his introduction is so pitch perfect for his character.
Nice.
Like I was on board like minute 1, episode 1,
Voice
where I was
acting
like, you
good?
get it.
The voice acting's good.
Voice acting's really good. Yeah, they got
My
some.
God.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
I just had a thought because of Vash the Stampede,
Yes.
Yeah.
and you know
Vouch.
how Vaush had his thing with the horses.
Vouch
God,
gets
Vaush the
likes getting
Stampede is really
stampeded.
fucked up. Yeah.
Oh.
Vouch wants to stampede some
Vash,
women.
Vash
Unfortunate
the
women.
Stampede from Trigun though is a much better person.
Yeah.
I love Vash the Stampede. Like one of
He's wonderful. He's
great,
just a good
great,
guy.
great protagonist. Great main character.
He's cool, man.
Yeah.
He's so cool.
Yeah, because I think
Like Spike Spiegel.
yeah, there are some things about it where again, it really does reward you if you have seen the original series in its entirety.
Yeah.
Because while the original Trigun anime only kind of follows the manga, but not really,
Yeah.
Stampede seems to be following it a bit more closely, but there are some things that happen in the original series that did happen in the manga. So there are certain things that you might see or certain things that characters say, and you're like, wait a minute, huh? And then you
Yeah.
kind of realize, yeah, it's really good. I was a little bit worried about it, but man oh man, did Studio Orange deliver.
I watched my brother showed me a clip of I think he's shooting like bullets into the air or something, or it's like a really epic action scene.
Oh
And-
yeah, where he shoots a bullet to like stop a bunch of rockets that are falling.
Yeah, dude.
That's the first
That
episode.
the animation's incredible.
It
And I was like,
is.
this is like I actually am totally on board with CGI now. I think Mark just said that, but like
Yeah, like
it depends on how they do
You
it.
can see it done very, very well in certain circumstances.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk Edge Runners was a great mix of CG and hand drawn look too.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll watch it. I can't wait to watch it.
Yes.
It's another one that's on my list. That's
Yeah.
a Netflix show, right?
Yeah.
Netflix original?
No.
Trigun?
It's on Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's done. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
I think
was like,
Onimusha was Netflix.
yeah.
And Mark's choice.
Yeah.
Uh,
But with that, what
interesting.
is your number 4, Lofty?
Back around. Okay. Well, I would say I don't know if you guys have this on your list, but I have to. I'm just gonna put it at number 4 because it's hard for me to rank these top ones, but I have them in this specific order, and I'll just keep them in this order. So, The Boy and the Heron is at number 4 for me.
Ooh, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Neither have I.
Oh, wow. Well, that's unfortunate. You guys should have went to the theater to support Miyazaki. What's wrong with you guys?
Yeah, I know. I would have if my
I'm
theater
kidding,
was
I'm joking.
showing it.
I'm joking. Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah, I
really
mean,
wide
I
release.
didn't have those showing anywhere near me either.
Yeah,
I was even trying to get to the Demon Slayer one that just came out, like the Hajira training arc.
You know what's funny? That did go
theater,
to my
so-
theater.
Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
it was in some theaters, but they're all like at like the other side of the city, and like
Yeah.
I was like, man,
it's this is
Godzilla,
like
the
Godzilla.
gas money is actually going to make this more expensive than it otherwise.
I remember
should.
you had to do that for Godzilla, right? You had to make a big trek somewhere, or is that you, Mark, or somebody else was telling me that? I can't remember.
Maybe it might have been me.
But yeah, it was limited, not limited. It was wide release, but not a lot of people got a chance to see it. It's coming out soon, so I highly recommend when it drops on streaming to definitely check it out in like high quality 4K, whatever you can. Beautiful animation, stunning animation. The movie though is just peak Miyazaki. I think it's like surprised me. I wasn't expecting after Wind Rises, which is a very serious movie about
Yeah.
war.
Mhm.
And then right before that was Ponyo, sort of like a kids movie. I love Ponyo. I think it's amazing. But like I wasn't expecting him to return to his early career, which this movie is like I put it in the same category as Castle in the Sky, Spirited Away, Mononoke, and Howl's Moving Castle. And a little bit of Totoro. So it has like
Like, kind of
fantastical.
everything.
Yeah. So well, like I said, Wind Rises was like a departure for Miyazaki, and because it was so serious and it was just like there's no fantasy aspect to it. But he went back with this movie and he like sort of revisited all of his like his peaks throughout. Like this has a lot of Totoro in it because you're dealing with like this Japanese village, and then there's also like this gate, like in Spirited Away, where you cross this gate and then you enter a fantasy world. So there's the Totoro sort of village part of the movie, very, very quaint, very good, like very traditional Japanese storytelling in the beginning of the movie. Then there's the fantasy part that's very Spirited Away, very, very like Mononoke, like the forest, the way it makes you feel like you're sort of like in this otherworldly place.
Yeah, it's like you're inside a JRPG.
Yeah, a
That's
JRPG.
what Mononoke always made me feel like.
Yeah, and then but I was not expecting the fantasy part to like completely overtake the entire movie. I thought it was going to be more sort of down to earth, exploring the village with the characters in the village, but no. This movie is like 2 hours and 15 minutes or something. It's very long for a Miyazaki movie. And there's so much really, really cool fantasy stuff. And the world building is incredible. It's hard to explain because it's kind of a movie about legacy. So there's this character, this old man in the trailer who is sort of like this creator of worlds. He creates these worlds, like he builds them with magic. And that's what Miyazaki does. He builds these worlds, and he's basically doing a commentary on himself in this movie. And the boy in this movie is sort of like us, like his fans, or people watching his movies, or like young people that are growing up. And there's just all this meta commentary, but the it's really hard to talk about unless you've seen it. So I'm not gonna like go into the story stuff because it's just crazy things happening.
Too spoilery. Yeah.
It's just it wouldn't really quite make sense. It's like Alice in Wonderland a little bit, or Spirited Away, but Spirited Away is more straightforward. It's very straightforward. This movie has a lot of metaphor, a lot of characters behaving a certain way. You don't even know why until you find out who they are specifically, and then it makes sense. Like it's very it's crazy. But yeah, the animation, the music's brilliant. The voice acting's really good. I saw Japanese voice acting in theaters.
Okay.
But it was really good. And
same with Godzilla.
It's just a beautiful.
One.
Yeah, same. Yeah. But it's just a beautiful, beautiful ending to his career. It's so good.
Is he not making anything else?
Well, I'm treating it. He says he is. So like for me, this is going to be like what Kurosawa. Yeah. It's like this is like Kurosawa's Ran in 1985 when he did like his magnum opus.
Hey, based.
Yeah, so this is basically like, well, Kurosawa adapted King Lear at the end of his career. He was like 75 years old, and it was like his Japanese version of King Lear, Shakespeare. Yeah. And then right after that, he did a couple sort of like okay films, and then he died. I have a feeling that might happen with Miyazaki, but this is like going to be his like magnum opus culmination of his career. If he does anything else, it might just be like the rumor is like Nausicaa sequel, which would be crazy.
Interesting.
I love Nausicaa with passion.
Yeah,
but like
Nausicaa's really good.
So that would be a cool ending to his career because he started his career with Nausicaa. Like that was his like second or third film, and if he does that, that would be like an epilogue to his career almost. And this would be like the like this final masterpiece, The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to talk about. So I did a review on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out after you watch it.
Okay. Good deal.
My number 4. It's my number 4.
All right. Mark, what is your number 4?
I guess I'll throw Blue Eye Samurai in there.
Blue Eye Samurai.
Yeah, that's probably around where it should end up being. But yeah, so Blue Eye Samurai is a television show that I saw on my Netflix recommended. That's the first place I ever learned about it. And I guess like something about the art style didn't really click with me, so I wasn't clicking on it. Also, I think I just finished watching something else. I'm like, man, do I want to watch a whole other show right now? And it's probably just a wannabe Arcane show, so I didn't really watch too much of it.
Right.
And then I kind of just decided, what the hell, I'll give it a shot. Watched one episode and was like, it's okay, I guess. I don't know, it's kind of dumb. but at the same time, there's something there. And I'm saying that this was just my perspective on first viewing because I've now seen it a couple times, and the first episode actually is better than I gave it credit for. But I think I was just maybe expecting it to be less good than it was. And it ends with a reveal. The first episode ends with a reveal that was painfully obvious. So it was like, okay, well, maybe that's a little bit dumb. When it happens, you'll know. They'll be like, okay, well, they treated that as if it's like a big thing that you just learned, but it's been like painfully clear to everybody the entire show. But anyways, what this show really is and what it's about is the story of a samurai, or not so much a samurai, let's say a blacksmith's protege who was a half white, half Chinese girl in the end of the Edo period. So it's like around the time that guns are sort of coming to Japan. Actually, it looks sort of similar to like Shogun's deal, like around that same time period. If you guys have been watching Shogun,
I have not.
And
Wait,
basically,
yeah.
she's found that like her she wants to find her father effectively, and like the European men that sired her. She doesn't even know who exactly it is, but wants them dead because of reasons that I'm probably not going to go into. But it's essentially like kind of like a Kill Bill style revenge story where she's got like these 4 European dudes that she's trying to hunt down, and you don't really know how she's going to go about getting the information, even never mind like actually succeeding.
Yeah.
But where the show gets crazy isn't even in like the animation or the cool special effects or fight scenes or anything like that. It's that the characters all have way more going on than they seem like they do at first. So even characters that you think are just going to be useless comic relief, or like a villain that might be kind of like, or sort of a foil for one episode that is defeated and then you really never hear from them again, or end up being very what would be the word, slapstick-ish, you know, like
Ooh,
the kind of thing where like if you've got a guy who used to bully her as a main character, like when they were kids, who's now like a leader of a samurai, or like one of the top students at a samurai school, and they have a fight and she wins, and you wouldn't be thinking that character would end up being one of the most like complex and honestly kind of morally centered character on the whole show, but they get you there and give you the time to sort of get to know these people. And almost everyone has, all the main characters who they follow, there's basically 3. It's Mizu, who's the revenge lady, like the samurai, who's, oh, by the way, she's posing as a man too, so because she can't,
like Mulan.
Yeah, kind of. You can't get into Edo without a male escort. If you're a woman, you can't just arrive alone. So she basically needs to dress up as a man to be able to get the information she needs, which you could maybe make the arguments like, well, that's a little like on the feministy side, but it's like because of the setting, though, it makes sense. Yeah. And they don't shy away from that stuff, and they use it quite well. This is also not a Japanese production, I should mind. It's French. So it's similar to Arcane. It's a French animation studio that made this show. There's also this princess character who's like, or like this noble's daughter who has this sort of geisha arc that kind of reminds me of the book Memories of a Geisha. I don't know if you're Memoirs of a Geisha. I think you ever read that? I think they made a movie. It was
not read it, but I've watched the film. It's really good with Zhang Ziyi. It's a fantastic movie.
But yeah, no, so she's got kind of a story that's similar to that, but much more tied into what's actually going on in all the other aspects of the show. Episode 5 is absolutely incredible. So I think if you're not really sold on the show and you're kind of waiting for it to get better, episode 5 is the one that I think if you get to the end of episode 5 and you don't like the show, you definitely won't want to watch the rest. But 5 is brilliant, and the only thing I would warn, I know that Lofty doesn't really care about this stuff too much, so he won't care. But no, I'm just saying that in episode 6, the rules kind of fly out the window because they do a really action-heavy episode, and there's just plenty of things that would have totally taken her out of commission that she just tanks, and that doesn't really happen in the rest of the show. But like, I don't know. The one scene that bothered me the most is she gets in a fist fight because she doesn't have her sword at this point with a bunch of baboons, and I'm just like, you would get fucking wrecked.
Yeah,
like,
baboons will kill.
No chance. Like you can't survive one hit, lady. Like it's not happening. don't care if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like that is not.
Oh
gonna
yeah,
happen.
I was literally just about to say, Arnold Schwarzenegger would get his shit pushed in by a baboon.
No, like seriously, it's not a feminism thing. It's just it's silly because they're very very strong. Like they're not strong the way we're strong. They're a different thing. It's scarier.
Monkey mode.
But yeah,
Baboons.
and I think that they really stick the landing on the ending, even though it does set up a second season. And yeah, I think that it is quite the good show.
Yeah, I want to watch that too. There's a lot of shit to watch though. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's 8
gotta watch
episodes. Like it's over
Trigun.
pretty quick. It's
Yeah.
and like it's the kind of show that you'll probably just end up marathoning in like one day.
Yeah. Is there a season 2?
Not
will
yet.
there-
No, it was just this past year, so I'm gonna guess 2 years until the second season. Because Arcane
Nice.
was 2 years, so I'm gonna imagine what might end up happening is we'll have like Arcane and then Blue Eye Samurai, then Arcane, then Blue Eye Samurai. If Netflix is trying to get those two kind of French CGI animes and pump it out, then yeah, I'm up for more of both. And we do get Arcane season 2 this year too.
Oh,
Nice.
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, Blue Eye Samurai really impressed me, and it's it's a good example. Also, like similar to what I was saying about The Gentleman, of like a strong female character that kind of earns it, and they don't really write her in the way that you would kind of expect, especially because there's one scene where her and the princess kind of like eye each other as the princess is in a carriage and she's walking around, and I was just like, oh man, are they gonna make them lesbians? And that is not what happens. Mizu is actually very, very much heterosexual, even though she dresses like a man. So they don't go out of their way to be like, yeah, she poses a man, and by the way, she's a lesbian too. Like it just didn't. It just seemed like they didn't go too far with it. It's like, no, she's a very, very tough woman, but in the kind of Sigourney Weaver way, like she's got very harsh features, but there's like it's episode 5 that again you'll get to that you'll be like, oh yeah, okay, so this isn't just our action protagonist shonen hero. This is a character, and yeah, I think you guys will like it.
All right, good deal.
Sounds good.
Well, my number 4 and the best anime I saw last year was Frieren Beyond Journey's End.
That's interesting.
I thought that was this
doesn't
year.
Frieren span both years? I guess is that how that works?
It is, yes. So Frieren,
Season 1 or part 1 or
yeah. So season 1 started in November, I think it was.
yeah.
It was like late October, early November, and then it went all the way into this month actually, and it only stopped. I want to say like two weeks ago. It was 29 episodes the first season, which is great.
Dude, it's a long season.
I
And
know.
randomly 29 episodes, which doesn't make sense, but it
Yeah,
is
because
what
you
it
think it'd be 30. You know what I mean?
is. Or 26 like a normal season, or
Yeah,
or
you think
13 or whatever,
yeah.
but and then split up into 2 seasons. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But I like that. I really like that Madhouse took its time with it, though. They clearly had a lot of affection for the universe and the characters.
Yes,
So, wow. I mean, so good.
I love it.
So
love it.
good. Yeah, I loved every episode.
Mark, have you seen it?
No, I was actually thinking about starting it last night, but I ended up just marathoning Dragon's Dogma 2 until I finished it.
Oh, you should after you're you're done Dogma. Yeah, you should watch that now because it's
Yeah. I got
peak
to
your-
like I said, there's sort of a Castlevania Symphony of the Night upside down castle deal in Dragon's
Yeah.
Dogma, like a whole other area that you might not even
Yeah.
get to. And I just cleared that thing in one sitting, and I didn't finish until like 4 a.m.
Well, now you can watch Frieren. It's a very similar kind of vibe. It's very fantasy, medieval.
But what really struck me was really its first episode. Mostly because it kind of almost operates on the premise of like, what if the sequel to The Lord of the Rings was us following Arwen? Right?
That's very true. Actually, I said that sort of in a different way when I was watching it. We were talking to my brother about it, and I was like, "This is like after Lord of the Rings, and after Aragorn dies, and Arwen's just has to move on with her life. Yeah, you're right. It's exactly what this
Yeah,
is.
it's very similar because normally you have like this is in basically every isekai ever created, but it's like the Demon King is up to some tomfoolery and you got to take him down.
Is
Right.
Freerun an isekai?
No,
No,
it's
no,
a fantasy.
Freerun.
Well, no,
we,
just
we,
because you
we
said
didn't. Yeah.
isekai, so
Well,
that's
well, it's an isekai. The isekai premise. Well, it's not an isekai, but that's kind of like the premise of like most isekais, like about the Demon King kind of stuff or whatever, some generic like, bad guy.
Yeah.
But but the first episode of the show is the ending of like other shows, if that makes sense. It's like the very
Mhm.
end of a massive journey, and
Exactly.
that's where this show starts.
That's such
Crazy.
a brilliant idea, by the way.
Yeah,
Like that is
crazy.
such a genius idea for a story of like,
Yeah,
okay,
it's the best part of
let's
the show.
start the story when the Demon King has been vanquished and we're returning back to the capital for the celebration.
Yeah, that's how the
That's
show starts.
great. And what's amazing is that it sets up its premise in like the first 5 minutes because
Yeah.
Heiter, the priest, Himo, the hero,
Yeah.
and I can't remember the dwarf's name off the top of my head for some reason.
Yeah. remember.
Dwarf, warrior, Aizen. His name is Aizen.
Mhm.
Yeah, Aizen. So they're all kind of talking about like, damn, we 10 years together. Like what a journey.
What a journey.
Yeah, and
And then
Freerun's like,
Freerun-
what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about? It's not that long. 10
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
So, Mark, she's an elf. She lives a very long time, thousands of years, like Galadriel, basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's basically Galadriel
Yeah, she's basically immortal, essentially.
and powerful.
Yeah. So
Except she's a battle mage. Galadriel arguably didn't do any fighting, except if you want to interpret it that way in the books.
yeah.
But yeah,
You
Yeah.
mean she didn't take out that ice troll?
no,
Oh,
she didn't.
Jesus, we're not going to talk
Single-handedly?
about that.
We're not going to get into.
We're
no,
not
no, we're
gonna
get
talk about
Rings
that.
of Power.
Fucking Jesus Christ. Oh, by the
but
way, okay,
Freerun
so about
does.
real quickly, I guess I will bring up Rings of Power. You know that Hello My Future Self or whatever, Future
Oh,
Me,
yeah.
that guy, he released a 4-hour video today about Rings of Power.
Oh wow.
He is probably gonna rip that thing apart. Jesus Christ. Anyway,
Little Platoon just released a
doing it.
video about Dune that's actually pretty good. Oh, I think it's an
yeah.
excerpt from a longer video he's working on.
yeah.
30-minute
Nice.
prologue to a longer video.
Yeah.
I'm kind of blown away that he's working on Judas, with
Yeah, dude,
Dune.
I can't wait. He's not going to be able to talk about it until it comes
Oh,
out.
no,
but-
absolutely.
No.
But it's
But,
nice to know that there's someone
Oh, I-
who
that-
picks apart stories the way EFAP people do, like saying he's been
Yeah,
on
working in
EFAP.
the industry.
And and I mean the narrative concept of Judas sounds crazy too.
It does.
No.
Can't
Like
wait
the
for that.
narrative Lego thing. It's
sounds
so
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So proud of
So
him.
not
I
like
am too.
yeah, so not like
Yeah.
Rings of Power. It's actually really good.
No.
Yeah,
So
looks like it could be,
so
at least.
the night
Yeah.
of the celebration there is a meteor shower.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks dick because in the capital there's a bunch of like lights and stuff and it kind of you can't really see it. And it occurs once every 50 years. And Freerun offhandedly just casually drops like, I know a great place where we can go in 50 years. It's awesome. And they all kind of look at her and smile and say, yeah, okay, sure. But they, like she just doesn't fully grasp the fact that,
She doesn't understand how time works
Yeah.
for humans.
yeah, she kind of does, but she doesn't. It's almost like if you were to explain it to her, she'd be like, oh yeah, absolutely. But she doesn't really understand that concept.
Well, the best way to describe this is she is the embodiment. She is like the representation of a standard sort of high functioning, mid functioning autistic person. That's
Yeah.
basically what Freon is.
Yeah.
yeah, because
And she's a hero to a lot of anime weebs
Yeah.
because that's what they are.
yeah.
And she doesn't understand social cues. She doesn't understand what other people are thinking, especially about like life and death and how time and how long 50 years is a long time for a person, but to her it's not. So she can't put herself in their heads. She has no idea what that means.
Yeah.
And she has to learn this throughout the show, sort of, right? That's
It's-
the point of the show.
Yeah, it's so good, especially
Yeah.
because we get Surprisingly, though, there is a bit of a almost kind of a subversion where she shows up 50 years later and everybody is still alive.
They're old.
technically.
They're old.
They're old
Yeah.
though. Yeah, like
It's like
Himmel's.
episode 2 or something.
No, it's still
That was
episode
always
1.
that was always the thing.
Yeah.
The curse of immortality is that
yeah.
everyone you love, you have to watch die. It's
That's
Highlander
what
was-
that's
that
a
was the
big
deal.
theme in this show. It's this curse, and she.
There's a
kinda
beautiful Queen song about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. and the Lord of the Rings has some parts of this that explore parts of this themes like this, not
Yeah.
throughout the books, but parts of the story and the Silmarillion or some other stuff.
Yeah.
Unfinished Tales, I think.
I think so.
But
Yeah.
yeah, dude. But that's early on. Like they
Yeah.
get old.
Yeah,
and
like
then
that's
she
like
has
that's
to live with it.
that's what I mean. Is that's what makes the first episode so perfect? Is because when she shows back up to collect Himmel, he's like, "Oh, Freyrin." He's like, "Oh, you look exactly the same. You look exactly the same." And
Yeah.
he's like shorter, big beard,
Yeah.
gray,
But- But throughout the show, she learns. There's not. We won't spoil it for Mark because he's got to watch it. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
he has to grapple with these, oh wow, people get old,
Yeah.
and I actually, and maybe I actually kind of care about these people, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, I've never thought about that in my entire life. So it's
Yeah.
fantastic from that perspective. Now, without spoiling, I guess we could. Do you want to talk about the characters or
The
such-
characters are fucking tastic.
Yeah, the main three, the trio.
No, it's
Oh my
not just the main three. It's like
All of them, but-
Fucking what's his name? Not the old man. The Imperial Mage.
Oh yeah, he's good.
Yeah, like
Oh.
he shows up and like the first episode he's introduced and you're already like, I am so on board with this guy.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, the characters are great.
the characters are insanely good. It is a
just good
marvel.
writing.
It's just
Good
such
writing.
good writing. Yeah. Fern is amazing. Love Stark.
Yeah, they're all great. Fern's also sort of autistic.
Yeah.
She's a little bit.
All right.
Well, no,
fine,
she's-
I'll watch the autistic.
Yeah,
Outlander
dude,
and
watch
shit.
the
I
autistic
can- my
waifu
penis can
show.
only get so erect.
I know that's why the show's good.
Yeah.
But I think Fern might just be growing and kind of learning 'cause she's
Yeah.
much younger than
Yeah.
what's her face, Frieren.
Yeah.
Because Frieren's like 1,000 years old. So
Yeah, I think
But-
she's more than 1,000. I think it's
Yeah.
implied she's at least like 3,000 years
Fern
old.
Fern is just naive, a little naive, man, and sort of
Yeah.
confused, a little sheltered.
Yeah,
The action's good. I will say that the story is very slice of life. It's not like the best story of all time, and it might end up being a great story at the end by the end.
mm-hmm.
But like
More about
People are
character than
comparing it-
plot.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
But
I mean,
what
that's-
confuses
that can
me
be
is
good.
like people are like comparing this to Full Metal Alchemist. It's on a lot of people's like favorite anime of all
Alchemist has
time.
a lot of plot.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense to me because Alchemist is just a better story so far for me. And this show is just a very, 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 very good slice of life show. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I
Kyle.
mean, like a
Yeah.
slice of life show can be quite good.
Yeah,
I think for me,
Clerks is one of my favorite movies, and
Clerks.
it's a slice of life as you can get.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think
true.
I think it's just so much more character focused. Where the story is a very simple premise. It's basically a simple setup. We need to go from point A to point B. That's the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah,
that
exactly.
like everything
Yeah.
that happens in between is the meat and potatoes of the narrative.
Yes.
So I think if you're not a big character-driven story person, you're gonna kind of bounce off of this.
Yeah, it's
but-
gonna seem like a little bit of
I'm
a
not-
waste
I'm
of
all
time.
about character-driven story.
Right. So to me, this is the opposite of like Demon Slayer, because we're not really actually. What am I thinking of? So like
Well, Demon Slayer is a lot of plot because the characters in Demon Slayer are pretty archetypal,
Yeah, they're sort
and
of
you don't
of
get
one-dimensional.
too much from them
Yeah.
Yeah.
generally.
Pretty
This
Like
simple.
we don't go
Definitely
into a
not.
lot of people's backgrounds in too much depth unless it's like,
Mhm.
oh, here's the real thing that
Flashback.
happened with my father all that time. Like,
Yeah.
kind of deal. As opposed to just
But,
this one time, me
yeah.
and my best friend were at the mall and we.
But this is no Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is so focused
Well, yeah,
on
Attack
telling
on
a
Titan is
brilliant story.
ultra plot.
It's
Yeah.
it's all plot, but the characters are great. But this is
Mhm.
just dialogue, very specific, nuanced dialogue, and it's great. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Where people get things mixed up with character and plot is
Yeah.
that a good plot is generally driven by the characters' decisions making sense with like how they are
Yeah.
developed. So
Yeah.
you're writing bad if, or, I mean, it's bad writing if you're constantly asking, wait, why is this person doing this?
Mhm.
And you as the writer don't have an answer. And I mean, if you're the one who's writing, like you know when
Yeah.
that's true and when that's not, and you're ultimately not fooling anybody. So it's like, hey, wait, is this? Why did this
Yeah.
character do this? It's like, well, I needed
Like-
him to
like
do that to set up
Rebel
the ending.
Moon,
Like,
for example.
I didn't watch Rebel Moon, but I can only imagine.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
It's
I've
like,
always.
wouldn't it be crazy if Arya Stark stabbed the Night King?
Oh,
at the end? It's
Jesus
like, yeah,
fucking
I mean, yeah,
Christ! We are
that
not
was-
talking
that was-
about that right now.
No, but you know what I mean. It's like, yeah, that is surprising, but that doesn't mean it makes any sense. Like,
Oh,
that's not
fucking
the story
Jesus
that you
Christ! Oh
Yeah,
my God!
It's
yeah.
bad. Yeah.
No, like,
No,
however, how I've heard it described, and this is kind of how I view it because it just makes a lot of sense to me, is that like,
Yeah.
plot is simply just this happened to this character and this character did this. Like, it's just a basic retelling order of events. That's your plot.
Yeah.
Your story is all the meat and potatoes, all the character, all
how the characters and the plot interact.
exactly
Yeah.
how the
The
characters and the plot
conflict-
interact. Yeah.
How
Like
the
Lord of the
conflict-
Rings.
How the
Yes.
conflict in the plot changes the characters.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
So
your
this-
story.
Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. It's all good,
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Magic Archer is a pretty good class, apparently.
yeah.
Frieren, to be fair though, it gets better in 2024. I will say that. I think. I
Well,
think it gets
yeah, I'm talking about Frieren just as a show in its entirety. So, I'm talking
Yeah,
about
exactly.
also the stuff that came out this year, because really the rule is just if it started last year, it's fair game. So,
That's true.
talking about the show in its entirety, like there's so much to glean. There's so many
Yeah.
good characters. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like Ubel, like
Yeah.
oh man,
all the mages.
all the mages. Yeah, it's
Good
God,
one.
the magic is so good. Yeah, it's oh
Yep.
man, yeah, Frieren is
Where were we at again? 4? I can't remember.
this is my
Oh,
number
yeah.
4. So
Yeah.
Lofty, what is your number 3?
Well, mine'll be quick. Because I don't think anyone's seen it. Succession season 4.
I have not seen
I've
Succession
not
yet.
seen a
Finale.
single episode of Succession.
Yeah. So this will be quick, and we can do maybe you want to do your guys, but Succession, and I don't want to spoil anything because it's the season finale, and it's one of the best shows I've ever seen. It's like, to me this is like when it was running, it was like the Breaking Bad of like this era. Well, Better Call Saul was also running at the same time. Those are two of the best shows on television, in my opinion. It's just it's very Shakespearean. Succession is about a family, a rich family, sort of like the Murdochs or like the Trump family, and they are sort of not running the world, but they're in very high positions of power. And the father figure is sort of like the symbolic. It is just like this, like the king, and like his children are all vying for the throne. It's very Game of Thrones. It's very Game of Thrones. If you think of the concept of like playing a game, of like sort of like a lot of the characters in Game of Thrones do talk about this hierarchy as like playing a game, almost like Tyrion and Littlefinger. They're all like sort of scheming.
Yeah.
That's very much like
When
Succession.
you
but
play
it's-
the Game of Thrones, you win
Yeah.
or you die.
But
That's
But
my
the-
little
but-
finger.
but Succession is like that, but with very realistic, very current, realistic politics and business-oriented drama.
Hmm.
And the great part about this show is the characters. They're all incredible. There's three sons and a daughter, and their dynamic is just insane. They're all crazy. They're all sort of fucked up people.
Yeah.
The show is very dark. They're not very good people. It's sort of like a warning or like a cautionary tale of
Mhm.
how wealth can corrupt people.
Yeah.
And it's very Shakespearean, very dramatic. The season finale is just so powerful. Kieran Culkin is in it. He's Macaulay Culkin's brother.
Ah.
He's one of the
he was
siblings.
in Scott Pilgrim.
He's in
Scott's
Scott
roommate.
Pilgrim. He won he won the Golden Globe this year for Best Actor in a
Nice.
drama, and he deserves it. And all the acting performances are incredible. Tom is the guy in the new what's it called? What's that Loki time people? What are they called? You guys know what I'm talking about? The TVA.
Oh.
Tom,
Yeah. Okay.
Tom is a character in Succession, but he's the new TVA guy in the trailer for Deadpool.
Oh. Okay.
So I think I don't know if you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm just trying to explain who this actor is because he's just like the best person that nobody knows. But yeah, so he's good. Man, it's hard to talk about because this show is just so drama heavy.
Yeah.
But it's a masterpiece.
I hear
very
very
funny.
very good things. Yeah.
It's like The Office, but like dark political drama.
Okay.
But the Office. So
Yeah.
if I had to describe it.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, I guess there's not much to talk about because the ending is like a culmination of the entire show. It's just the best season
Okay.
of a show I've seen in a long time, very long time. Better Call Saul, was that last year? Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be.
Was that? Oh shit! Yeah.
That would
probably
be
should
in
on
my
list.
like honorable mentions, like maybe 11, right behind Pluto. But yeah, that's it. That's my number 4.
All right. Good deal.
Yep.
All right.
Number 3. I'm sorry.
All right, Mark. What is your number 3?
Well, I've got a similar one that I could use for my number 3, so I think I will because it'll probably keep us on the same wavelength. Has anyone here seen The Fall of the House of Usher?
Not yet.
So
Yeah.
This is a show that
great.
is made by Mike Flanagan, who is famous for The Haunting of Hill House, as well as The Haunting of Bly Manor, that people didn't like as much, but I actually really, really liked. I think Bly Manor is incredible. But and Midnight Mass as well, which I like the first 5 episodes of, and then I think it loses steam. And The Fall of the House of Usher, which I think might be... It's competing with Bly Manor, at least, for Flanagan's strongest show. Because the premise of it alone gives you a lot of grounding in the story if you know the works of Edgar Allan Poe. Like if you've ever heard like the Telltale Heart or the Raven, or like I mean if you know those stories, each one of the episodes focuses on a different member of this also like wealthy family with the premise
Very similar to Succession. Very similar.
Yeah, the premise of Fall of the House of Usher being that this brother and sister run a corporation that was effectively the company that put OxyContin on the market. It's called Ligadone in the thing, which was hilarious to me because I kept on thinking of Ligma.
Ligma.
It actually is called Ligadone, and like every time they say it, I was just like chuckling a little because it's like Ligadone my balls.
Ligadone.
Yeah, but
Ligadone my balls.
anyways, the name of it's not important. Basically, it's OxyContin, and he gets obviously very, very rich. He and his daughter were both sired by their mother's boss that he was cheating on his wife with.
Yep.
And the boss effectively denied him and his sister, like would basically pretend that he had no idea who the mother was and wouldn't pay child support or anything. And one day something happens to the guy, and it's very traumatic, and I won't ruin that. and it makes the guy decide that he's never ever going to abandon one of his kids, no matter what the circumstances were. He's always going to acknowledge them. And he was married clearly for a little bit of time, because there are 2 biological kids in the Usher family, and every other one, I mean, they're all biological, but there's 2 like true born, like between the mother and
true
father
Aryan.
of the
I mean,
Usher.
yeah,
No,
true.
trueborn is in like
Yeah.
within the confines of marriage, you know, like
Exactly.
like the Usher family, born with
bastards.
the Usher name. Whereas there's a group of bastards, and there's 4 of them, I believe. Yeah, I think there's 4.
Yeah, there's one
And-
bastard in succession, and he's treated very differently. But this show doesn't do that. This show is very, like you said, it treats them all sort of the same, I guess.
And what I like about that is that's Usher's character, and it's because of his childhood. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of an interesting element to give to a character who ultimately is morally reprehensible. Like,
Yeah.
he is a bad guy, as much as you feel for him, especially because Brian
Yes.
Greenwood's performance is just so good. And you do want to hear his story, because basically the whole time he's telling the story of how each of his children died to a guy who's been investigating his company for many years, like he's basically a whistleblower that's trying to take down their pharmaceutical company. And it's such an incredible story, because each one of them takes an Edgar Allan Poe story, and off the bat you find out that every single one of the kids, the bastards and the legitimate children, all of his direct children, all of them are dead at the very beginning of the show. And basically what you're given is, I'm going to tell you how all of them died. And the guy's like, well, I mean, those are public record. Like, I know how they died.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'm going to tell you
No,
things
you don't
that you
know how they
couldn't-
died.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you things that you could not possibly know, and they're going to be bizarre, but I have to do this, and I have to do it now. And you really get kind of pulled in by the story, because there are some there's some light mysticism, like there is a bit of haunting and magic stuff going on here, but it's very subtle. Or I mean, and even when it's not subtle, it seems like, are they imagining it? Is this just coincidences happening, or is this an actual character that they're speaking to? When Carla Gugino's character shows up, every time that happens, it's almost like a conversation between Picard and Q, between Carla Gugino and just whatever character she's talking to in that episode.
And it's also like the Fall of the House of Usher book in a way than the short novella, which is similar. It's like, is this really happening, or is this in his head in a way? But
and I think that the Flanagan, I think, has a problem with endings, and I think this one was probably one of his better ones. And I think a big part of that is because it was a very clear and obvious message about, like, you know, like pharmaceutical opiates being bad, and like being very, very bad for families and for people. And I think that's it's a message that everyone can kind of get on board with. Like, no matter what walk of life you're in, I think you can realize that drug addiction is a very bad thing, and that maybe it would be better if we didn't give people drugs that we say aren't really very addictive, but turns out they actually are. And find that people end up being dependent on street versions like fentanyl after that. And but it's really good. And even little side characters who are just kind of in the background, like his most recent wife, who is another amputee. There's a lot of amputees in media these days, leg amputee, but it's this Irish girl she's just kind of comic relief for most of the show, because it'll be cut to her and she'll say something and it'll be kind of funny, and then you cut away. But even she has an incredibly powerful story by the end of the season. And like it's just a phenomenal show. I think it's probably Flanagan's best work, and I strongly recommend it. It's why actually I did do a couple cop out, like, clump things together, like the Nintendo releases and stuff. But I was gonna actually loop Fall of the House of the Usher, Blue Eye Samurai, and The Killer in for
Netflix.
Just Netflix just pumping out some of the best shit I saw. One Piece being another one. Like
Pluto.
One Piece was this year as well. Pluto, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's I think Netflix had a very, very strong year, and I know that we're in or at least Lofty and I are pretty clearly in a YouTube community that is famous for hating on things very hard.
Yeah.
So I would not be saying that.
Netflix.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, If I didn't have to say that there were currently good shows on Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus,
And
it would
Apple.
make it a lot easier to hate on those companies. But
It would.
ultimately, right now, Disney Plus is hosting Shogun. So there's a good show that's only on Disney Plus, and it sucks, but there's not really anything we can
Apple.
do about that. Yeah,
Masters of the
watched too
Air.
many of Apple's. Masters of the Air, I hear, is really good. I've not seen it
Yeah.
though.
Yep.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think that that Netflix, I think, deserves a bit of commendation for
They do.
sort of releasing some stuff that actually really appears to put the story first and try to actually
Exactly.
tell things with characters and doing things like giving David Fincher. Because I mean, I might actually just use this as my number. Never mind. I'll talk about that next.
Well, Del Toro's Pinocchio,
Yeah, there we go.
2 years ago,
There you go.
and then Del Toro's next film is also Frankenstein. Is a
That year was
Netflix.
also, I believe, Arcane and Cyberpunk
Yeah.
Edge Runners,
Exactly.
which are two kind of masterpieces in their
Yes.
own way.
Yeah.
Masterpiece
Yep.
might be going a little hard, but I don't think it's going very
Not for
hard.
Arcane. Not for Arcane. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Arcane is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I can see that. I would definitely not argue against that if you said that. I'd be like, yeah, no, that's fair.
Mhm.
All right. So, getting to the big dogs now. My number 3 is Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
This would be on my list probably, but I only played the first act, so I didn't feel like it was
really?
appropriate
you
for me to
finish
put.
Baldur's Gate 3? Holy shit.
No,
Glued to that game.
me and my brother spent like 40 hours in the first part of the game, and then after that, some game came out, and I had to stop playing Baldur's Gate. I can't remember what game it was. Might have been Armored Core. Anyway, like this year was just too many games back to back to back. I didn't have time to finish it for some reason. I'm going back to it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's good. Good game.
Yeah.
great-
Great game.
is that on your list, Mark?
Yeah, I was thinking about throwing it into number 2. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I'll just make this
Well,
my number 2.
I was gonna say we
and,
could just talk about this like as though it's also your number 2, and
Is it
and
your number 1?
It's not on my list. No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
No.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, we can talk about this as if it's my number
Yeah,
2. I
it's
think
like a
I think
combination.
giving it to Baldur's Gate would be totally fine by me.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy, was this a big mama of a game. I mean,
Big game.
how much did you experience in the first playthrough, Mark? Like just Act 1, what all did you discover?
Like, I tried to discover absolutely everything I possibly could. Like because I played the early access version, so I'd already played Act 1.
Okay.
I had to restart though because it's not a compatible save file. So I tried to go as hard as I can into every little nitty-gritty thing because the last time I played it, I kind of just did the story missions and then that was that. So yeah, I spent a lot of time in Baldur's Gate Act 1. However, I definitely spent a hell of a lot. The most time I spent was in Act 2. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I also restarted it, a good chunk of it because I thought that I'd bugged a romance quest line that I was trying to get. And
The Demon Girl.
yeah. And I didn't end up fixing it because apparently you have to begin the romance in Act 1, which I really don't like. I'm not crazy with the fact that it's like, wait, why can't I start a romance later on when I know these characters? Maybe when I'm actually attracted to one of them as opposed to when I'm just meeting them.
I assume you're
And,
referring to Karlach?
Yeah, Karlach's best girl. Though Shadowheart is amazing too.
Yeah.
That game has good waifus.
I had
man.
Karlach in my party the entire act.
Yeah, she's incredible, like as a character to
Yeah.
use in the game,
Yeah.
and she calls you soldier. It's great.
So
It's so chill, too.
did you recruit Will and Karlach in Act 1, the first playthrough?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, see, I missed both of them.
Oh,
Oh wow.
How do you miss,
missed a lot of the game? Holy shit.
Yeah. So my first playthrough, I didn't even finish actually, and I'll get into why. This is somewhat pedantic, but I don't like something they did relating to paladins, which I'll get into. But so my first playthrough was as a paladin, and I decided that I would try to see what I would discover naturally if I just attempted to do the main story only, i.e. what the game says is important, treat that as the only thing as important and see what happens. So I missed Will and Karlach the first time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I played the complete opposite way because I'd already done like a beeline story, which I did get Will. I didn't get Karlach, but I also played the first early access release, and I think Karlach was added later. Apparently, she also wasn't as hot before, so they hotified Karlach for the final release. And,
Oh yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, I honestly think it worked really well because they made her face very pretty, and that's a good thing to do if you're. Like, she's essentially a hulking monstrosity in some ways, but she's also like pretty fit, and like her figure is actually kind of nice. And
I think
she
she's
just
hot.
has like she just has like, but she has like her skin's like torn open, and there's like machine parts coming.
I
out
know.
and stuff, and she has a horn, and one of her horns is knocked off, so she should look monstrous. But I think they made her personality so good, like they made her such a charming character, and they made her beautiful. So when you're talking to her, you kind of start, you find yourself becoming into her as you're playing through. And I wasn't expecting that, which is why I didn't start the romance until later, and then realized that I'd glitched it and couldn't finish it. So yeah, I played as the Virgin Ranger because I didn't have any sex during Baldur's Gate 3.
No.
It's
Ranger? Your first playthrough was a ranger? Is that what
Yeah.
you said?
Interesting.
Okay. Mine was a warlock.
Warlock.
Very fun. Very fun.
Yeah. So.
I like having a flexible role with my main character where I can I can do some AoE stuff, and I can move quickly enough that I can get places if I need to get near someone, but also I can take some hits.
Yeah.
You know, whereas I figured if I was a sorcerer, it's like, well, I'm gonna need to be standing really far back, and I mean Gale's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I use Gale for pretty much the entire game.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, as a paladin, what made me stop and what I didn't finish my first playthrough is because, so if you go to the Underdark, right, and you take the ship that the Dregar or whatever they have, you infiltrate, the thing that made me break my oath, which I was confused as to why.
So I guess you played this at the end of November?
Yeah.
Get it.
Yeah. So.
No Fab November joke.
Yeah. I was.
Break your oath.
Yeah. I didn't get it because, okay, so they have a bunch of deep gnomes enslaved, right?
Yeah.
And so, as a paladin, like realistically, you would start a fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
That made me break my oath for some reason because I stabbed someone first. Like, I started the fight, basically.
Okay.
No, I start tons of fight in Baldur's Gate.
And I was so annoyed by that, I basically stopped that first playthrough. So the first playthrough I didn't even finish because I was like, what? What?
You didn't want to scum save and go back a little bit?
No, because the thing is, if I started a fight, like I would have started a fight realistically, because if you want to role play, right? So like realistically, you'd start a fight because you'd want to free the slaves.
Yeah.
And the game was like, nah, man, you broke your oath, bro. You can't do that. I'm like, what the fuck? So, yeah, I stopped. My second playthrough was a lot more fun. I played a human necromancer named Lawrence. And that playthrough was super fun because I essentially took every detour. I decided just to fuck around a lot more. I romanced Shadowheart, which is a lot of fun. And okay, so Mark, did you pick up on the fact that she was a goddamn poser like right away?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, cool.
Most edgy goth girls tend to be.
Well,
That's
but you know why, right?
I mean, I could kind of tell just because she was over the top vicious for what didn't seem like genuine reasons at first. But then she would also have there would also be times where she'd say something and you'd be like, "Oh, there's a nice person there."
That's what tipped me off because the game allows you to see what characters approve of your actions and what characters disapprove of your actions, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I guess you're right. You can kind of tell what their moral.
you can tell, like in
what their
Act
moral
1, you can
alignment is
tell.
because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like when you're being helpful, when you're not being like overly cruel or mean, you're being, diplomatic or otherwise like trying to find a solution. Like she approves of all that. If she was truly a follower of Shar, she would not approve of that.
Mhm.
So I picked up right away that I'm like, nah, man, nah, this something's off here. Great character though. Great character. Great voice
Yeah.
acting. Ah, so good. Yeah,
The voice acting in the game is top tier.
so good. Astarion is like, whoa, he's so good. He definitely deserved that that award. Yeah, so good. Yeah, okay. So Lofty just left temporarily. He's gonna get a drink, which is good. So we can kind of jump into spoilers a bit more.
Sure.
So
What did you think of J.K. Simmons?
Joe, he's so good. He's so good. Holy shit,
I was not expecting to see him in this.
he is so good. Specifically, did you follow the Illithid throughout the entire story, or did you free Prince Orpheus?
So I was following the Illithid for a good chunk of it, but I decided to free Prince Orpheus like right at the end.
Yeah. And
because yeah, like it just, I don't know. It's just the way the Emperor starts talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, I don't know, man. Like,
so you know how the previous I can't remember her name, but she suffered a stroke.
Who suffered a stroke? Sorry.
His ally. I can't remember her name.
Orpheus's?
No, the Emperor's ally in Baldur's Gate.
Oh yeah, like the original during his flashback, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so she suffered a stroke. So do you know why?
I guess because the Illithid killed her.
No, well, kind of, yeah, because he had dominated her so much, he essentially broke her brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his whole
sense.
like, oh, she was a friend thing is total horseshit. He essentially lies to you the entire game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time, he does save your life legitimately a few times. So it's
yeah.
like, well, yeah, he is saving my life. Like I would be dead if not for his actions. So
yeah,
maybe I do want to help. Maybe they're trying to subvert the expectations by making him an Illithid and having that be the kind of thing that's like, well, maybe you should see the good in him. But no, it's ultimately not someone you want to associate with.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna take your brain.
Yeah. So when you freed Orpheus, who turned into the Illithid?
Orpheus did.
Oh, Orpheus did. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Very nice. So, okay, so what's interesting about that decision is that you can actually have Karlach turn into an Illithid.
Oh, I wouldn't have wanted to do that to Karlach.
Yeah. So it's something that she actually wants you to do. Like if you talk to her, she'd be like, "Oh, this will actually be great because I'll be able to continue to live. My heart will no longer be a problem, and I can keep you safe." Oh, okay,
I don't know.
safe.
I wasn't about to take away Karlach's tiefling manatee.
Yeah. Tiefling manatee, yeah.
Well, she's not a human.
Well, yeah. But yeah, so romanced Shadowheart, standard good ending. And then my third playthrough, I played a Conjuration Mage, and I played a female Tiefling, and I romanced Gale.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gay?
Has anyone played a Warlock?
I have not.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's very. You can play multiple
I just
ways.
did the Ranger playthrough. I think I'm gonna play in like a year. I want
Yeah,
to kind of wait until like all the updates are out and stuff. Maybe eventually, if I ever get a new video card, I'll like make that one of the games that I play.
Yeah.
Because I recently upgraded my CPU last year, but I haven't got a video card since 2020. So
Yeah.
might be getting towards that time.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna wait till the next generation comes out.
Yeah. I would.
None of you guys played multiplayer?
I
Co-op?
would. Speaking of, yeah, I'd love to play multiplayer. That'd be a fun thing to do with you guys.
I've never once done it. I don't know really even how it works.
It's very entertaining. It's a big time-consuming thing, but
Yeah.
but I played with my brother. We just played together, and it was cool. We each had our own guy, because there's 4 party members.
Yeah.
So we sort of each controlled.
Yeah.
Or sort of took. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. So
Rocky.
The game is my number 3. However, kind of spiritually, it's my number 1 if you add mods into the mix.
Oh wow!
Because
there's a specific mode for mods, right?
No, there's just you download mods and you just run it and
Really?
just play.
I was
Yeah.
kind of thinking that there was a launcher for mods that I don't know. Well, maybe I'm thinking of a different game, but I remember playing a game this year where it's like you can launch it and that's like with mods or without mods in the title screen.
Oh yeah, no,
Or
it's
like in the launcher on Steam.
there's a specific mod manager for it, but you just launch with the mods. But as good as the game is, there are a couple of areas where mods make it, oh my god, so much better. 5e spells adds a bunch of additional spells from D&D 5th edition. It makes mage playthroughs so fun because it adds a bunch of extra spells and just a ton of extra options for you, depending on what kind of spellcaster you play. Like, there's more illusion spells, there's more transmutation spells, evocation. Like, there's just more, a ton of additional spells for each group. And then if you're playing a necromancer, Animate Dead ++ is like a must-have. In fact, I actually downloaded that for my second playthrough because I knew I wanted to play a necromancer, and I looked up like how good is the AI for the undead, and they were like, it's pretty good, but sometimes they'll run into walls and stuff, and there's this mod that really kind of smooths it out and cleans up the AI. It's called Animate Dead ++, and oh man, necromancer is busted. It is so cracked. Yeah, super fun to play. And then there's infinite dye. So the dyes in the game allow you to color your clothes, but the thing is that you can't preview how it's going to look. So you just kind of have to.
I wasn't crazy about that.
Yeah. So this mod, infinite dyes, essentially is every dye you get in the game has infinite charges for it. So you can switch
clothes.
Yeah, so you can style your whole party in the same colors if you want and just do all kinds of stuff. And then dyes is a mod that adds every single dye in the game in a chest on the Nautiloid.
Huh.
So you get every single dye in the game and you get infinite charges of said dye right out of the gate, and it is so good.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. There are mods that add more amulets and rings for all kinds of different effects. Some of them are very specific, and some of them are kind of crazy, and it's just a great mix of stuff to play around with and have fun with. And then finally, the mod that's actually kind of helpful for multiplayer if you want to do more NPC side quests is unlimited party space. So, in other words, let's say that all 3 of us played, right? We could have an additional 4 party members of the NPCs if we wanted to do their side quests.
Yeah, neat.
Now, of course, we'd want to play on the hardest difficulty. Otherwise, it'd be way, 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 way too easy.
Yeah, because we have 8 people in combat.
Yeah. So you obviously want to play on the highest difficulty, but it is a way to experience more of the story and more of the character stuff at the same time.
In a multiplayer setting. Yeah.
In a multiplayer setting. Now, I downloaded it and had 5 party members so that I could add, what's her name? She's an older elf from the first Baldur's Gate. What's her name?
No, geez.
Jahira?
Yeah, Jahira.
Yeah, I wanted to have her along because she's from Baldur's Gate 1. So I was like, I gotta have her along. So I downloaded that mod so she could always be in the party.
Well, I mean, the first time you're with her, she acts as an accessory party member.
Yeah.
It's like you have like a full party and her.
Yeah. So yeah, it adding mods to the game makes essentially an already 10 out of 10 game even better. It's so good. And they're adding official mod support. So there are going to be official modding tools, which means like custom quests and fully voiced NPCs. It's going to be crazy.
Well, I mean, I think that's why I think that's the primary reason why Larian is so comfortable just walking away from Baldur's Gate at this point.
Yeah.
Because they recently even came, like, funny that we're having this now because this was like last week. He was saying that, yeah, no, we're definitely not doing Baldur's Gate 4. We're not making any DLC for Baldur's Gate 3. We're moving on to something new. We're not looking back. It's fine. We made it.
Divinity
it's out there.
3?
The mod tools are there.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, they said new, something new, and like that to me kind of implied that maybe they were going to do something like actually new, like a different.
Yeah, I think actually no. Yeah, I think now that I remember, he said that the next game is not going to be Divinity Original Sin 3, but the game after is probably going to be.
What
Divinity
if they did
Original
a Lord
Sin
of the
3.
Rings game?
Ooh.
I mean, honestly, I sort of don't want them to be dealing with a license. And if they did, I actually think the thing that would be the craziest, although I don't think it would ever happen, is if they did Cyberpunk. Like if they did a Cyberpunk 2020 game that's kind of like Baldur's Gate 3, but adapting the tabletop rules of Cyberpunk 2020.
Or a Brandon Sanderson like the Cosmere.
Oh god, yeah, that would be awesome.
That'd be really awesome, yeah. Like a Stormlight Archive game where you play as like, yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like they've basically got free reign to do whatever they want at this point, and they independently published. I think they do have a fair amount of their equity is owned by Tencent, which I'm not crazy about.
Yeah,
but you know, I think that they're generally privately run, so a lot of their money stays in house and isn't going out to contractors and things like that, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah,
because it means that chances are a lot of the people that worked on Baldur's Gate 3 are still going to be there working on their next game, which is not something that's happening very often in modern video games.
Yeah.
A lot of hire contractors, now fire them all. Hire contractors, now fire them all. It's like, you know what happens now? No,
that's sustainable.
No one gets better.
Yeah. Goodness gracious. But yeah, game of the year in terms of like game that isn't a mod, which, well, I've got to talk about. But with that said, Lofty, what is your number 2?
Well, maybe depending if any of you have this, I can move it to number 1, but Tears of the Kingdom for me.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was in my Nintendo one.
Oh yeah, that's right. Have you played this?
A third of the reason.
Yeah, a third of the This game is a masterpiece.
I hear exceptionally good things about it. I haven't played it yet though.
Yeah. Basically it's just Breath of the Wild but better. And I say better because I like all of the additions. Breath of the Wild is different and the world is different. It's not as, I don't know, Tears might seem a little meandering to some people if they, maybe you prefer the simplicity of Breath of the Wild, but I don't. I actually prefer the sort of how do you describe the mechanics?
Sandbox.
The sandbox.
I've heard it described as near boundless freedom.
Boundless freedom. It's crazy.
Yeah, actually, kind of funny. Yeah, there you go. There's a game I can add to the comparisons for Dragon's Dogma. The Dragon's Dogma is Capcom's Elden Ring mixed with Monster Hunter mixed with a bit of Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, because the physics are so important.
Very important physics. Although Tears of the Kingdom is a much better game than Dragon's Dogma.
No, I don't know. It's they're pretty close. They're different. They're not really trying to do the same thing.
No, they are, but the world in Tears is just so much more interesting. Dragon's Dogma world is fun to explore, but it's very, very basic, and the enemy variety is just
story gets pretty crazy.
The story's good. Yeah, the story's good, and the Tears of the Kingdom doesn't really have a big story, but Tears just has
good moments.
Yeah, it has all. I love collecting the tears. Those are awesome. I love all the boss fights in the dungeons. I just think Tears has so much more variety of gameplay than Dogma. Dogma is just very addicting because it's just like masculine combat simulator, medieval. It's just epic. But yeah, Tears is just infinite. Anything you want to do, you could just. Oh, I just feel like going to the Sky Island today, messing around with that. I feel like tackling, trying to take out like a dungeon today, or I feel like going underground and just like looting, or getting resources. Like just infinite variety of things to do. And the physics are crazy. There's caves and shit. This is fun to explore. The underground map is just as big as the overworld, which is
Yeah,
insane.
it was similar to Elden Ring.
It's like Elden Ring. They both have this big underworld area, but Elden Ring's is more like it's not like an inverse. It's like its own little environment.
Mm-hmm.
Giant
ants.
Yeah, so Breath of the Wild was like my favorite Zelda. Tears eclipsed it for
Mm.
me, and it's just one of the best games of all time, in my opinion. It's probably my top 5, maybe top 10. The only downside to Tears to me was that I played Breath of the Wild right before Tears, and then it felt just slightly samey, a little bit samey. But that's just because I played it right before. I feel like
It's the problem with when a previous one in a series is long and you do
Yeah.
the replay. It's like, well, am I burned out on these mechanics right now?
Well,
That's what-
even though I played it right before, I wasn't burnt out, but I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more if I spread it out over like 4 years and played them back in that way. But yeah, dude, it's just there's too much to even go into. The game is just massive, and Hyrule is the best presentation of Hyrule ever. I don't know how they're gonna top it. I don't know what they're gonna do now. I mean, you can't top it. You're gonna have
I'm
to
telling
do.
you, the only thing they
something.
can do is have the third one in the like Breath of the Wild trilogy be all of Hyrule, like the Sky Islands and everything, it all gets flooded, and then it's
Yeah, the
like
flood-
Wind Waker.
But it has to. They could do that. They could flood the thing, and then we could do underwater exploration and boats travel, and the Sky Islands become islands, which would be interesting.
Have
But
submarines to go down.
yeah,
To, like the other aspects.
absolutely, scuba diving. That would be amazing. However, I would rather they do a spiritual sequel to Wind Waker in that art style with just like another ocean kind of game, but like with modern technology and open world. But I would rather them do like a Wind Waker style, like with Toon Link. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't need another Tears. It would be awesome if they did that, but like, you know what I mean? I don't know, man.
Well, I think they're when they release their next console, like the Switch 2 or Super
Switch 2.
Nintendo Switch, whatever it's going to be called, I'm willing to bet any amount of money that there probably will be a version of Tears of the Kingdom. I'm going to bet that it's not just the Switch version will run better. I bet that they will release Tears of the Kingdom remastered, maybe Breath of the Wild remastered as well. Probably Smash Brothers and Mario Kart. Like they'll have a way that like all of the big Nintendo franchises are like on the new thing and that you have to buy them again.
They will.
But
like Wind Waker HD.
Yeah, but Tears of the Kingdom, I think I'd have no problem actually like purchasing it for the 60
I would.
FPS version because I would absolutely play it again if it was running like beautifully.
Definitely.
But yeah, I guess we'll have to see.
And I just love like the combat in the game is so much fun. There's like so many ways to kill enemies.
A lot better than Breath of the Wild too, I think. In that
it
regard.
is. Yeah, and you can do all these like crazy things with like all the new powers that you have access to.
Yeah.
And
the ability to construct things not only results in a lot of really interesting puzzles, but it fixes the combat from Breath of the Wild.
It does.
Because
I don't care about breaking
durability.
anymore.
Yeah,
durability.
Because you're one move with your power and 2 decently strong looking items away from making a decent weapon at any given time.
At any point.
That's huge. Because in Breath of the Wild, there are definitely going to be times where you're not prepared and you don't have a lot of weapons, and then you find yourself fighting a temple guardian or something like that, and it's like, I'm never going to be able to do this because I don't have a sword that's any good. I only have this piece of shit one that I got like 30 hours ago, or like that I got. It has been in my inventory forever, and now it's like a stick or a torch or something that you're now using as your sword. But that didn't really happen because you could take a torch and then find an enemy weapon and attach it to the torch and all of a sudden make it like a big spear thing or like Kind of
Yeah.
do like a Liza P.
Or like a
mixing
shield.
of-
I was always making shield flamethrowers. With those like that fire head thing you can attach to your shield.
Yeah, that was
But
fun.
yes, that's my number 2. It's just like it was game of the year for me, but I understand Baldur's Gate might be better. I just haven't finished it.
Well, I mean, I don't. Better is not really the right
Yeah,
word for
yeah.
comparing those kind
Completely
of games
different
against
games.
each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it's kind of like comparing Fullmetal Alchemist to Free Ren. It's like
Free
it's
Ren, yeah.
too different. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, well, I guess with Breath of the Wild and Baldur's Gate, they're both fantasy role-playing games in certain ways. But I mean, I think that
That's about
the
it.
physics sandbox of Tears of the Kingdom is nothing at
Yeah.
all like the narrative
No.
sandbox of Baldur's Gate, I guess.
No,
Like,
it's totally different sandbox
yeah,
mechanics
the
and everything.
sandbox features in Baldur's Gate are basically it's writing. It's like, we're
Yeah.
gonna just make it so that you can make whatever choice you want, and the world's gonna react accordingly. And have at it.
That's my number 2.
All right.
And mine too was Baldur's Gate, so we can skip
Oh, well,
right to you, Katie.
yeah, there we go. Yeah. Baldur's Gate, very good. So my number 2 is Empire at War. Star Wars Empire at War Thrawn's
Oh, wow.
Revenge 3.3. This is the current release of the Total Conversion mod to Star Wars Empire at War, which adds in what, in my opinion, is the most interesting period of the old EU, and that is the Warlord period. So post Episode 6, Death Star blows up. Essentially what happened in the old EU is that the Empire splintered. The Empire still had a pretty big chance. Like they had a pretty strong position. Like they probably could have taken down the fledgling New Republic. They had the manpower, they had control of most of the galaxy, but they splintered because there was no set ruler take place after the Emperor died. Now there was the Grand Vizier Sate Pestage, but people didn't really like him because he was kind of a weak little freak and they didn't like him. So Warlord Zen said, nah, fuck this shit, I'm out. Sandor Darvaris said, fuck this shit, I'm out. Artist Kane said, fuck this shit, I'm out. And so essentially the Empire just kind of collapsed.
This is a old RTS game. With an update.
It's a 4X game.
Mod.
Yes, it is a 4X game, and it is a total conversion.
Gotcha.
Yes. So it has been in development for over 10 years now, since like its early alpha, and now 3.3 is its current iteration. It has a ton of factions to play as, which is great. And it's really is the ultimate kind of Star Wars kind of strategy game. It's really, really good.
Wow.
Yeah, it is really, really shockingly good. I mean, because you can pick up the original version, Star Wars Empire at War, like for like $10 on a Steam sale, like $2 on a Steam, like it's super cheap.
Yep.
So
the complete bundle is $200.
Well.
Oh. That's the Star Wars bundle.
Yeah, that's like all the Star
Battlefront.
Wars games. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
So.
Even that bundle shows up for like $20 on Humble Bundle every now and then.
Yeah.
Is this like Galactic Battlegrounds at all, or is it more like Civilization?
It's so okay. So so it's a 4X game.
Okay.
So a 4X game has the 4 X's of gameplay. This was sort of started Masters of Orion. When Masters of Orion came out, games journalists were asking, I can't remember the creator's name off the top of my head, but they were asking him like, what is this game? And he was like, it is a 4X game. And they were like, what is that? He's like, well, it's based on 4 gameplay pillars, 4 X's: explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. So those are the core pillars of a 4X game.
Yep.
I
played I'm just familiar with like Civilization, Humankind, stuff like those sorts of games, but there's slightly different variations of that, I guess.
Yes. So Civilization is a 4X game because you explore, you expand, you exploit natural resources, and you exterminate your enemies. Now, the thing is that with 4X games, usually all of those pillars are kind of mandatory. With Civilization, you can do science victories or culture victories. So really, the exterminate pillar is really for if you're doing a war-focused playthrough, or you're really just going to be mostly just expanding and exploiting natural resources, and that's about it.
Also the Age of Empires or Galactic Battlegrounds is not 4X because there's no exploration.
No. Yeah, that's what's known as an RTS game, so real-time strategy. So this game is based on, it's sort of a galactic star map, right? So it's the Star Wars galaxy. You have a set number of planets in your territory. You want to build your fleets and, invade planets and take those over. It is a 4X game that is mostly expand, exploit, exterminate, not so much explore. You're not really doing a ton of exploring. You're doing a little bit of exploring. There are a couple of events where like a lost fleet is discovered or something, but that's like one event. So the exploring is like very light. It's kind of like Civilization in that regard, where like one of those pillars is going to be a little light depending on your playthrough.
Yeah.
So the Warlord period is really interesting because there are a ton of different factions. So there's like the Imperial Center, which is just your main Imperial remnant. But then you have Warlord Zinj and Zinj's Empire. You have the Pentastar Alignment, which is headed up by Grand Moff Artus Kane. You have the Iriadu Authority, which is led by General Sendo Dalvaris. And then you have the Greater Maldrude, which is headed up by the Pterodok brothers.
I don't know any of these people.
Yeah, well, because that's has nothing to do with the Disney expanded universe. This is
the EU.
Yeah, this is the old EU. So because the old EU is, God, it's so much better, because the authors of the old EU were really interested in exploring ideas of like, okay, so you have this massive totalitarian, super top heavy dictatorship, and your head of state fucking dies. And the person who's set to replace him is kind of a weak moron, because, by the way, Sate Pestage basically immediately gets on his Nokia Razor, calls up Mon Mothma and says, hey, you want Coruscant? Because you can have it. Someone has to let the barbarians through the gates. Why not me? Yeah, which is pretty funny. But so what's cool about Thrawn's Revenge is that you can play as the New Republic, you can play as the Imperial Center, or what's more interesting is you can play as one of the sub-factions. So the Pentastar Alignment is very carrier-focused. So there's a lot of fighters, a lot of carriers, not a ton of dreadnoughts, not a ton of heavy destroyers, mostly carriers. The Greater Maldrude is more cruiser-focused. So it's more like mid-range ships, couple of Star Destroyers, but not a ton. It's actually mostly your smaller cruisers and light frigates and stuff like that. And anti-fighter corvettes and stuff like that. And then you have the Iriadu Authority, which is super top-heavy like the old Empire. It's super heavy cruiser, super heavy dreadnought. They're the only faction that can build 2 dreadnoughts at the same time. And they have the heaviest dreadnought in the game, which is the Assertor, which is you can just steamroll with that. And then there's the New Republic, which has a ton of different government mechanics. So there's a lot of different ways you can play the game, a lot of different playthroughs, a lot of play styles, which is a lot of fun. And then Zinj has a lot of pirate contacts, so there's a lot of pirate ships in his fleets. It's the main combat is ship to ship, and then there is the ground assault. So when you land troops on the planet, you have to assault the planet and take over buildings and destroy the defenders and whatnot. But it also has a legitimacy system. So the more planets you take, the more legitimate you are as the true empire. And there are these hero characters that will attach themselves to your cause as you gain legitimacy. So there's all kinds of mechanics. There's actually a lot to it, which is great. The huts are actually being added in 3.4, I believe.
High reviews.
Yeah.
Like overwhelming positive reviews.
Yeah, the huts are being added in the next I think 3.4. The huts are being added, and I think at 3.5 or 3.6 the Seruvi Imperium is being added. So the other great thing is that Petroglyph fucking loves the game because they were gonna cut the Iriadu Authority because there was hard coded into the game a maximum number of factions. And former Petroglyph employees got into the game and modified it. So there was an update to the game, like a 6-7-year-old game. They updated it so that the faction count went from like 7 to like 26.
Wow.
Yeah, they love modders. They love modders. They love the game because it's a 32-bit game, but no longer. It's a 64-bit game now because they added another update. So Petroglyph employees, they went back into the code and updated it so that it can run on more RAM.
Interesting. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
which is great. I Petroglyph, they are chads, man. I love these guys. They looked at this ancient like 13-year-old, 14-year-old game, like it's an old ass game, and they're like, hey, you know what? Let's update it. Let's update it to be, let's update it to be 64-bit. Let's uncap the faction count so they can add way more factions. Like it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that is my number 2. If you haven't,
I'll look into it.
yeah, because it's a mod. It's a total conversion mod, so it's free. So there's
Nice.
yeah, pick up the game and download that mod. It's super fun. But with that, Lofty, what is your number 1?
Okay. Well, kind of like what you did, sort of cheated. It's nothing that came out last year. But well, actually, yours came out last year. You're saying the mod came out last year?
Well, the latest update came out last year. So 3.3 came out
Gotcha.
in June of last year, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
So, my thing is something that I read last year that I never read before
Okay.
for the first time. It was I think that was part of the. We're allowed to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like for the first time, I've never read this before.
Yeah, exactly.
Berserk.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, I watched the 97 show years ago. And I love it. The anime. I love the anime. It's amazing. The music, all of it. It's so good. The Golden Age arc.
One of the last 2D like hand-drawn anime.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. It was really good. And it made me want to read it, but I never really was into reading manga until like 2 years ago. I started buying like Vinland Saga and Promised Neverland and some stuff. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna get all these leather black edition Berserk comic manga. So I have
They're
8 of them.
pretty nice.
They're insane, dude. Helsing has some too. So really
I've currently got
beautiful.
14. I have to figure out
Okay.
my bookcase situation now because they no longer fit on one shelf. 13
I
was
only-
the max.
Yeah, I'm behind, dude. I have 8. But yeah, so I read the first 8 volumes last year, and holy shit.
have you gotten to Berserker armor yet? If you don't know
No.
what I'm talking about, just say no. It's,
Yeah, I got to the part where he meets that boy that's sort of like him a little bit. That sort of follows him around.
Isidoro.
Yes.
Isidoro.
And I also got past the part where there's this whole torture village, Crusader village, where they just torture people when Casca goes sort of comatose.
Yeah.
And then I got to I think that's right before the creepy demonic fairy people.
The City of the Lost Children.
Yes, the City of the Lost Children.
Yeah, so that's an arc that like some people really hate, but I actually really like that arc. I thought it was quite good.
I like it. I like every arc in this entire story. I haven't had a bad one.
Berserk is it might be the best piece of fiction I've ever read. It's
up there.
phenomenal.
It's literally up there, dude. the, oh my god, the characters are so perfect. Guts, Griffith, Casca.
And like
I
in
mean,
the manga, you get so much more of them than you've ever gotten in the adaptations too.
yeah,
Because
you do.
you see things like Guts not wanting to. Okay, so here, has everyone seen the Golden Age? Like, seen the show or anything? So like,
All
I'm
of
only
it.
spoiling things.
Yeah, no,
okay.
I'm
Okay, spoilers.
relatively up to date. At least up to the Falcon of the Millennium.
Oh yeah, that's like now. That's like that,
Yeah.
That's basically one of the most recent arcs. But
Yeah.
but anyways, what I was saying though is the scene where Casca has a fever and Guts holds her in the tree, like through the night. That you see that in the show, and it just seems like, oh, it's a tough guy, and like he's
Yeah.
taking off his clothes so that he's just keeping her warm, and
Yeah.
he's making that face, like that angry face,
Yep.
because he's just a badass. But then you find out like what happened to him when he was a kid, and
Yeah.
the fact that he doesn't like being touched by anyone.
Yeah.
Like anyone touches him, he kind of flips the fuck out. And the idea that he voluntarily would touch Casca
Yeah.
and hold her, and you just realize that it's peeling away the armor that he has up slowly, and
Right.
as they start ending up in situations like that together more and more, he realizes like, I'm in love with this
He
woman.
lets
Like,
it go. Yeah, for her.
And
they have
when he
great
does-
moments. Right when he does. But
then there's an eclipse.
there's the which is happening this weekend or this week, by the way. There's a total eclipse.
Mm.
I'm gonna be in the air flying to Vegas with it. So
Wow.
I have eclipse glasses for the plane.
Nice. That's gonna be exciting. So
yeah,
look out.
The total part of
Yeah.
the eclipse is going to be over like the Paducah area, so I'm just going to take off work that Monday and drive
Nice.
over to Paducah. Yeah.
My dad's driving to like the Midwest or something
Yeah.
to go see it. But look out for the
Yeah,
Four
here's something
Horsemen.
no one's gonna
Watch out
talk
for the
about.
Four Horsemen.
No Beowulf, hopefully no Griffith.
Yeah.
But and then even like I think actually the interesting things about, well, I'll use the YouTube like acronyms though, about portrayal of SA in a way that is like hyper necessary for a character.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
is something that is damaging and hard and shameful,
Yeah.
and like something that you can never reverse, especially like when it happens to a kid. And he's just such a wonderful character, even though he's buried underneath his own character issues, because
Yeah.
of course he is with how he grew up. But
And Griffith was as well.
I mean, yeah, Griffith's he's almost kind of the
As a-
polar opposite in some
Right.
ways. But what I mean is, ultimately, it's very clear that there's a good person underneath it all in Guts, and you kind of see that clearly in the manga in a way that I don't think you ever have in the shows or movies, because when you're trying to do that in as short a form, it's not as easy to get the impression of like, yeah, this guy's an ultra badass that you absolutely don't want to fuck with, but also there's a really damaged child inside there who had like some horrible things happen to him, not even in his childhood, like from the day he was born. Like his name Guts comes from the fact that they found him underneath his hung mother, who'd been like gutted and like hung with a noose. And so that's why his name is Guts, because he was in a pile of his mother's guts when they found him.
Exactly right.
It's fucked up. Like
it's fucked up, and people don't really have the nuance to appreciate that, and they're just like, this is inappropriate. Whatever.
Well, I mean, I think there's a fan project that's making this new Berserk anime called the Black Swordsman, that apparently they're trying to do whatever they can to like retain the intention of the manga art and make it seem sort of like the 97 one, even though they're using some more modern techniques. I hope it ends up turning out well. I know it might be actually the same studio who did the motion comics, which the fourth issue of the motion comic just came out. If you guys, I think it's Toko Studio or something like that. But yeah, no, like the Berserk motion comic, I would recommend. There's 4 episodes. They're
check
pretty
that
good.
out.
Nice.
It's like the animated manga, essentially.
I just couldn't stop reading it. It's just the best story, man. And like Griffith's story is so amazing and brutal, tragic, and you know,
Yeah.
he clearly did. I went to
Well, I
Anime
mean,
Matsuri.
He has his
And
own like sexual assault thing. That's
Yeah, he
like,
does.
more,
But-
but it's totally different though, because for him it's like it was technically consensual.
Yeah, right. Well, somebody at Anime Matsuri was holding up a sign that said, Griffith did nothing wrong, and then there was two sides of it, and you could sign your signature on one side or the other, and it was like yes or no. And a lot of people signed. Most people signed no, but a lot of people signed yes. They're just like, you didn't do anything wrong, and it's like, what are you talking about?
No,
But,
like the argument
yeah.
for the Griffith did nothing wrong like meme. I mean, it's ultimately a meme. Although I'm sure
I
there
know
are
it's a meme.
I'm certain there are people who are retarded enough to actually be like, no, actually Griffith had a point. Like, Falcone,
Right.
Like, he
Yeah.
made his utopia. So any cost, even summoning demons and. But like, I mean,
Right.
I think that, like ultimately the Griffith did nothing wrong argument just totally evaporates the second you factor in what he did to Casca.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
And that's it.
funny.
Like I think honestly, with everything else, like him just sacrificing everybody, you could almost think that
I
like
could-
that was
yeah,
that was a choice he made for power, and
That's
he
great writing.
regrets it. Like that
That's-
could have been the case, but because of what he does to Casca, it's like, oh no, he wants to hurt Guts because
and-
Guts left him.
And Guts
like,
is like the epitome. Guts' reaction to that is the correct reaction, because even before that, Guts was kind of all on board with
Yeah.
Griffith,
Mhm.
even through his kind of morbid, kind of fucked up way he was leading these people. Guts was still like, this guy's
he
like
still
got
believed
some
in he believed in
charisma.
Griffith's dream.
Yes, but it's like that moment, man. That eclipses like the best like sequence of any story I've ever experienced.
It's the best horror scene ever.
Yeah, it's
Like,
it's everything at once. It's body horror. It's
like,
creepy
it's
demonic
what-
stuff. It's
If you ever
Yeah.
like went to go see Hellraiser after seeing a trailer for it,
yeah,
and
Hellraiser.
we're thinking,
Exactly.
man, like the ending of this movie could get so wild. It's the version of Hellraiser, the ending of Hellraiser that you could imagine in your wildest nightmares. Like,
Yeah,
it's just-
it's
the most
heavily
horrific
inspired
shit.
by Hellraiser for sure. It's definitely inspired by Hellraiser, but it's better and it's more. Yeah, you're right. It's more.
Oh yeah,
It's, like,
significantly
more
better. I mean,
intense.
as much as like Clive Barker, don't get me wrong, he's great, but like Hellraiser it's a pretty simple story. No,
Yeah.
like, and I think wait, hold on, it was
But
what was the name of it? The Bloodbound Heart or something like that. I think was the name of Hellraiser's book.
Oh yeah, I
Something
can't
like
remember.
that.
It's Clive Barker.
Yeah.
But like, Miura's artwork too is stunning,
Yeah.
dude. Especially in the big
Mhm.
black editions.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like blown up twice the size of a regular manga, so you get to see the big line art, like just all over the panels, and it's so epic. And I'm only on volume 8, but I read them all at once, and it was just one of the best things I've ever read.
I mean, the really kind of weird thing is that you're sort of still in the superhero origin phase of the story.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
And yeah, because once the fetishes come into play, which you probably won't understand what I mean by just saying that word, but once they get their fetishes, things get fucking wild.
I bet. And Casca is just, like my waifu
Yeah,
of all
she's
time.
the greatest.
So
She
I
is
always
pretty
have-
great. She is pretty great.
Yeah, when anyone has ever like, who's your wife, I'm just like, well, besides Casca, you mean? It's like, who's your favorite pop star? It's like, oh, what do you mean besides Michael Jackson? Okay, like obviously, that's how I feel about Casca. I mean,
Yeah,
other
she's
than,
wonderful.
I mean, like maybe Faye Valentine would be close, somewhere up there, but
Yeah.
but Casca is
So-
just
The most morbid thing that happened with me and the end of Berserk, or at least as far as what was released from Berserk in North America at the time, the day that I decided to read the most recent volume, or sorry, not the day, but when I finally decided to read the last volume that I had of Berserk, and
Yeah.
like the last one before I entered the hiatus club, you know,
Yeah.
and I read it, and the very next day, Kentaro Miura died. I was so sad.
oh no,
I was like,
that
oh my
sucks.
god. I was like, did I do that?
you did it.
Like,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, dude, I couldn't really appreciate his death as much because I'm not caught up, so I don't really know the dynamics of
I mean,
that
I
whole
think
thing.
you've read enough to understand that like this guy,
Yeah.
this guy
Yeah,
understands pain.
Well, I just mean like I don't know how it ended before, like, as he died, so I don't know how, like, I don't know the dynamics of like
Okay, at least
continuing
the
from
last
there.
one that was out at a time.
Yeah.
I'll say this without spoilers and non-specifically. A long-running character arc is resolved. Like one character story is resolved in this one. It's a major one, and it's the kind of thing that if you said, "Hey, there's never going to be another issue of Berserk," it would be almost kind of like a little beautiful ending. But,
Okay, that's
but
cool.
I can't tell you until you've gotten past it though. So
Yeah.
ask me again in like a year.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But I like the Skull Knight. I like Nosferatu. He's freaking epic. Zod, or his name is Nosferatu Zod.
Nosferatu Zod, yeah.
Those two characters have. I'm assuming they have more to do with the story going forward.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I love it. I think one of the best parts we're just outside the eclipse. I think was it Skull Knight who shows up and he doesn't really know what's going on until like because there's this giant like hurricane.
Well, he's the one who saves Guts and Casca.
That's right. He saved them.
So like he saves them from the eclipse. Otherwise, there's no way they would have been able to get out of there. Especially because like I mean, at the time that Guts is at his lowest point, he is dismembered and an eye is taken out.
I know.
Like simultaneously as he's watching the woman he loved get
his arm. Yeah.
By his
Brutal.
best friend.
His best friend. By a god.
And the best friend is eye locking Guts.
As he's doing
he's not looking at Casca at all. He's only looking at Guts. So the last thing he sees in his right eye is his best friend.
You know,
his beloved.
And what makes it even more intense is just before this, Griffith. It's hard to deal with that scene with Casca, Griffith, and Guts, and like the eye locking, because like just before this, Griffith was tortured almost to death for a long time. And you felt so bad for him. And I was just like, I just want to give him a hug.
And so that is one of the reasons why people will argue that his choice was understandable.
Because it was understandable up until, his choice to release the Bahamut and summon the apocalypse, basically, or whatever.
Yeah.
Was understandable.
But the thing is, though, that choice is also him killing the entire band of the Hawk.
I know.
Like, I mean, that is a choice that is like, well, you can understand. It's like, no, he murdered all his friends. He's not getting out of that. That is still that choice. However, Muir is such a freaking genius that he got Griffith. He got Griffith into a position where you can put yourself in his shoes enough to think that you might make the same decision.
Yeah,
it's and like that's kind of incredible.
Very few characters. I mean, I would say Yagami Light, maybe Walter White, or other.
Yeah, like I mean, that's
similar.
Like Griffith is sort of done like that in a way that he's at his absolute lowest point before he makes the final decision to become a true villain.
Yeah,
and
lowest point, like Walter.
But it's a lowest point that it's not even like God, because you gotta remember his skin has been torn apart.
Yeah,
he's
torn
been
apart.
Being, like slowly skinned and
ankles
burned for the last year. Yeah, both of his Achilles tendons are totally slashed, so he can't move. His radial tendons are slashed as well, so he can't use his hands.
Can't breathe.
He can just basically be rolled around or carried around. He can't talk because he has no tongue.
Probably delusional. He doesn't know what was quite happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Walter's different because Walter had cancer in the first season, and then he became a villain when he just was thirsty for more power. Basically, it's a little bit different.
And like, I mean, Walt's cancer almost becomes less of a problem as the show goes on because it stops being, which is good. Like, I'm not knocking on the show for that because ultimately, at a certain point, it's not about the cancer.
No,
like, you know, like the show isn't, and for Walt, it's not. So I have no problem with that being something that kind of goes by the wayside. I mean, every so often they'll say like, oh, like, is this cancer back or something like that? They'll ask about it, but it never becomes a major storyline to be like, well, now there's going to be 2 seasons where Walt's just in chemo and not really able to do anything. Like the cancer was the premise but the power of being Heisenberg was the
Yeah.
story. You know, like that was
The allure.
that's what we were there to learn
And-
about.
And Griffith and Guts' relationship throughout the Golden Age arc is stunning. It's just
Yeah.
so well written. It's the best like bromance I've ever read or watched ever in my life.
Yeah. And that's why, like, it's kind of a funny thing because Griffith's sexuality is often questioned in that regard. Because
Right.
the sort of gag is that Guts is in love with Casca, Casca's in love with Griffith, and Griffith's in love with Guts.
I know it's a fascinating trio
The
of
thing is,
confusion.
though, I think that Guts and Griffith's relationship though is more subtle than Griffith's gay for Guts because
That's what's good about it. That's why it's brilliant.
Yeah, no, and the reason why I think that's made clear is by the Lord that Griffith has sex with to get the funding for the Band of the Hawk. So that is, we see him like almost tearing his skin apart in one scene because he's thinking about the things he's had to do with this
tear his skin
old,
apart.
fat, gross Lord dude that he's been the concubine of for the last little bit. And it's very clear that he's not like, he doesn't like doing gay stuff,
right?
And it
doesn't
really
even want to do
bother him a lot. But I think that the relationship that Miura built with Griffith and Guts is just so much based around respect for each other's abilities.
Yeah,
and that they
and
just
their determination, willpower.
Exactly, they know that they're both exceptional soldiers, and
Yes.
Griffith thinks that he sees Guts as not only a friend, but because he's the only person he can be a friend with, because he's like, no one else is even the same species as me, really.
Yeah.
Except for maybe this guy. And at the same time, he's threatened by him. He's very threatened by him because he's like, well, he could be the one to defeat me.
Well, he does. I mean, Guts defeats Griffith in a duel.
Yeah, in a fair duel.
And it's that's the best part of the show, probably. Really.
Yeah,
is that they depart.
The best part of the TV show. Yeah, it's one of the best.
Yeah, the music. Oh my god.
But yeah, no,
it's just a great freaking.
It's a really, really great manga. Everyone listening to this, you should really read Berserk. It's even like, don't worry about it not being finished, because honestly, there's a million places in Berserk that you could stop and still say it was one of the best stories you've ever read. Like it's that good.
That's very true.
Yeah, and
that's my number one, because I didn't. Otherwise, it would have been Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
that's
that's a. It's a solid ass number one. I will say though, if you're looking for other manga, Holy Land might be something that would interest you.
Like Berserk.
Well, so it's written and illustrated by Kenjo Mori, who is high school friends with Miura.
Okay.
And so he is the one who is continuing Berserk.
Nice.
So Holy Land's really good. I recommend Holy Land.
Yeah, I'll look into that. I always recommend Vinland Saga for fans of Berserk.
Oh yeah,
very
that's good.
grounded, great fucking characters.
Yeah, there's a lot of Norse mythology in Berserk too.
Yeah,
there's basically an Yggdrasil tree.
And Elden Ring tree.
Well, I mean, like every single Miyazaki game has been kind of a different version of Berserk each time.
For sure, definitely inspired a million things. Berserk, Dark
Dragon's
Souls,
Dogma too.
Dragon's Dogma. Yeah, dude. So like, I and then on another one is like Claymore. There's some other ones that are like dark fantasy stuff.
Yeah. Claymore, I believe.
Berserk's the best.
Yeah, Claymore came out like while Berserk was being written. Yeah. Claymore's finished though. Claymore's its own story. It's finished. Claymore's good. I mean, Claymore obviously isn't like Berserk level fantastic, but Claymore's good. And actually, I think Claymore really inspired Attack on Titan.
A little bit, maybe.
Have you read Claymore?
No, I just watched the anime.
Oh, the anime doesn't even. Yeah, no, you got to read it.
I like the anime.
I mean, the anime is good, but
I have to read it.
Yeah, I think I'm almost certain that the Claymore manga inspired Attack on Titan. I think Isayama read that and was inspired by it. So, but
is your number one a manga?
It is not, but I'm getting. I'm not gonna steal Mark's thunder. Mark, what is your number one?
My number one is Lies of P.
Ooh.
Oh, I gotta play that fucking game, man. I still haven't played it.
Lies of P is not only absolutely without a doubt the best non-From Software Souls-like game.
Okay.
It is one of the best Souls-like games.
Nice.
Wow.
From Software included.
Nice.
Where does it
I
stack up to Bloodborne?
I think it's unequivocally better than Bloodborne, but I know that that's going to be a hot take to a lot of people.
That's something that I would get canceled for if I said
Well,
that.
I mean, the thing is, though, most people would just not be ready to hear that, which is why I know, because that's the thing. If people stop listening to me about Lies of P if I start being like, yeah, it's better than Bloodborne, fuck you. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I think it is, but you might have a different argument. So
yeah, it's so
I'm
close
not,
that it doesn't.
Don't let that be the premise of my recommendation, that it is in fact better than Bloodborne, because then
Well,
it's putting
where
me
is
up
it?
against
Where is it? Up against Neo?
definitely better than Neo, 100%.
Okay.
And I finished the original Neo. I haven't
love
finished Neo
Neo
2, but I have played about 5 bosses worth.
I'm
of Neo
afraid
2,
of
so.
Neo 2 because I don't necessarily like the looting in Neo 2. It's a little bit too. Feels more like an ARPG or something.
The fact that I wasn't crazy about in the first game, but I mean it's fine. But for Lies of P,
okay, yeah.
So I had an interesting arc with this game because I thought it would always look cool from when the first trailers came out. Like everyone liked those initial trailers. It's like, oh, it's Pinocchio, but it's like Bloodborne, cool. And I kind of figured maybe it's a game I'll play. But then I think I played a game called Mortal Shell. Have you guys ever heard of that?
I've seen that. Yeah.
So that game is not very good. And it's a non-From Software Souls-like game that I played not too long before Elden Ring came out. Elden Ring came out. I loved Elden Ring. I have issues with Elden Ring, but I think that it is a wonderful game, and I played it 5 times, no joke. 3 times on PC and once on Xbox, once on PlayStation. I played the shit out of Elden Ring, so I'm not a layman when it comes to talking about Elden Ring. And I think it's hard to compare Elden Ring to Lies of P, because Elden Ring actually does some novel stuff with its open world that aren't really they aren't really exactly comparable to other Souls games. Whereas Lies of P is not. Lies of P is a straight up Souls-like. It's a traditional one, but it's one that is very linear, as far as you go from one area to the next, and you're very distinctly in different places during the story. You can travel around and you can go back to places and explore, but it's not like open world. It's more like you get fast travel points and you can go back to them. But like good Souls maps, it's designed in a way where everything connects. So it's not you can walk around the entire world if you want and just be on foot for every part that's accessible to you at that time. But most of the time you'll probably just be warped into your different basically bonfires. They're called I forget what they are. I forget what the lanterns that they have are called. Anyways, they're bonfires. But yeah, so when the level design is good, but I think what makes this game actually incredible is that it learns almost every lesson that every Souls game has taught itself, and sometimes learned from and sometimes not. It kind of does its best to be the best version of a Dark Souls game that it can possibly be, and was very clearly made by people who understand the genre well. It's a Korean game, and it's a first from that studio too. It's they've not even made other games, and they just
that makes sense. That's why the main character is a good looking
character. K-pop Pinocchio.
Korea, South Korea.
Yeah, I can't wait till their Dorothy game. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, Dorothy. Alice in Wonderland.
Lies of P is just every single boss, with maybe the exception of 2, is probably would be a boss that would be in like people's top 10 Dark Souls boss lists.
Wow.
They're all really, really well designed, interesting, different from each other. So there's a couple bosses that are similar in that they share move sets between them, but it's because you'll see that boss integrated into the other one in some way, because there's mutations and robots and like shit happens. You'll see it if you play the game. But there's always interesting patterns to learn. You have a lot of different ways which you can build your character, both in your abilities and the little perks that you give you bonuses to dodging, or make it so that you don't use stamina while sprinting, or don't use very much stamina while sprinting. You can get all sorts of little boosts like that, in addition to being able to craft your weapon out of 2 distinct parts. And this is the part that's kind of like Tears of the Kingdom, where you have a handle and a blade. and just call it a blade, even if it's like a club or something. Like, don't worry, we'll say handle and blade because it's easier. And you can put pretty much any handle on any blade, and the handle will always control the same, with the weight of the blade, whatever the blade piece you pick, dictating how fast those animations go. Which basically means you can create an almost infinite amount of weapons, because there's like every single weapon in the game that isn't a boss weapon, because the bosses have unique weapons, and those ones, like, you can't split those up. They're just like a one-piece weapon. But you can suit your playstyle around the perks that you have, the level character that you're building, because like all your different attributes will scale damage on weapons differently, kind of like in the Dark Souls games. So it has that Dark Souls build diversity that Elden Ring has, but say something like Sekiro lacks, or even Bloodborne to an extent. There's a lot of different builds you can make in Bloodborne, but Lies of P, I think, just because of the nature of the weapon system, it's sort of just insane how many combinations you could actually make. However, one of the boss weapons that you get pretty late in the game, so you have to go through at least one playthrough not using it for most of the game, is this katana that effectively turns the game into Sekiro 2. And
Wow.
because, but not
Parry?
in the way that you do, well, because you do parry with anything.
Okay.
However, there's a second parry that your heavy special attack, like your right trigger attack, is he does like a little flare with his sword, and then there's like a flash, like a ping, and if you time that ping to an enemy attack, so like you learn the pattern of like how long it takes to get to the ping, and then time the parry so that you get it at the right time, it just does crazy stagger damage and starts knocking people off balance like mad. So like there's this stagger system that you can really kind of get great with, and just play the game like it's Sekiro if you want, or play it like a Dark Souls game, like use a heavy big stick if you want, or abilities that give you more kind of ranged attacks, because there are a bunch of those too, because you have your Pinocchio arm, like your robot arm, that you can also, it basically acts as a secondary weapon. I usually use the rope dart kind of thing, so that you can pull yourself over to enemies and do kind of like a cool Devil May Cry 5 Nero thing. But yeah, and also the story. The story is very much worth talking about in Lies of P, because it is an adaptation of Pinocchio, but it is also sort of an adaptation of I, Robot by like Isaac Asimov.
Yeah.
Because basically the deal is Geppetto made these puppets in this city in Eastern Europe called Krot, that they basically was like the city of the future. So they went over there and made these automaton puppets that are effectively servants, and they they do a bunch of things around the city. And then something happened that made the puppets go insane and start murdering everybody. So at least as far as the premise goes, is that you're Pinocchio trying to figure out what's going on with this puppet madness thing, and basically bring an end to it and save the day. But the story of Pinocchio is actually in there, like, and you'll see little bits and pieces of like a black cat and a red fox and a belly of a whale, like all that stuff kind of makes an appearance in really sort of clever ways that aren't like a direct interpretation of the story. Like, it's not literal, like, hey, this is just like the Disney cartoon, but it's a Souls-like. It's just a very interesting version of all of it. And I think it's pretty deep. I think the script's very good. I think it's easier to follow than most Souls games. And your humanity, the last thing I'll talk about, your humanity is the biggest meta system in the game, like where you have a humanity level that you can't see, it's just in the background, and you do things that will raise it or lower it. The thing that you do to raise it, in almost all circumstances, is to lie. And the reason for that is that a machine cannot lie. So if you're lying, that means you're making a choice, which is something only a human can do.
Okay.
That's clever.
And yeah, and then the other way that you can gain humanity is by finding records in town, like all hidden around or at the end of some quests, and bring them to the gramophone in the hotel, play the record and listen to it in full, and then you get a boost to your humanity. But you have to listen to the whole song. So it's like you get these little breaks where you can just listen to a record and chill out, think about what your build's going to be for the next boss, or if you just want to stick with what you have, where you're going to pump your souls into to like make yourself stronger. And then you're done. It's like 4 minutes, and then the song's over. It's all original music. It's all license free, so you can stream it, and it's It's no big deal. It's all like Korean singers and stuff that they got. A lot of the songs are in English though, and yeah, some of them are quite beautiful. And yeah, it's a wonderful game. And I think that the only reason it didn't get the attention that it did is because the mainstream video game press they're super predictable in a lot of ways. So the fact that Elden Ring was the big hot game this year, they kind of ignored the Souls like games that came out. Like, you notice Armored Core didn't really get a lot of heat.
Yeah.
And Liza P hardly got any coverage. And I honestly think that it's like, man, people love this genre, and From Software is not the only one that can do it, man. I've granted.
No, because Team Ninja has done a couple.
Yeah.
And then Liza P.
Well, and I think that it's very interesting that we're recording this week
Stellar
as
Blade.
opposed to last week. Yeah, Stellar Blade. I played the Stellar Blade demo, and my fears were actually justified because what happened, what I thought was going to happen, did happen, which is I finally played the game, and the pace of combat and everything is way different than what it looked like they were showing in the ads, because they would always use like 3-second clips, and it would almost always be like execution animations and stuff. So that's this thing where we saw her hit the guy twice and then activate an animation with a cool camera angle. And I don't know what this game is. I think a lot of people are going to be pretty blindsided to find that Stellar Blade is pretty much a Souls game.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people that were like, oh, that Korean booty, want me some of that, are going to be a little blown away by how challenging it is. But there is a story mode difficulty, so maybe that'll make it a little bit easier for them. But it actually is a very good middle ground between Dark Souls combat, like let's say actually another Korean Souls like, so let's say Liza P combat with just a little bit of Nier Automata in it. And not the bullet hell aspects, just the melee aspects. So maybe even Bayonetta slash Nier. Because you have parrying like in Liza P, and the parrying is very important. And once you get the first upgrade for it, it actually gets significantly easier to do. I recommend getting it even in the demo. But once you have a parrying that's like Sekiro, but then the dodge system is not iframe rolling. It's not Souls dodging at all. And that I think is going to really throw a lot of people off. It is Nier Automata dodging. So you got to wait until the attack is close, dodge at the right time, and then the whole world goes into slow motion. And you get like one of those good like Bayonetta style dodges.
Okay.
So it's an interesting mix of those two games. It's both and it's neither. And I think it might end up being really awesome, because I played the demo twice back to back. On stream, I played it in English and liked it so much. So like, what the hell? We'll play it again. We'll play it in Korean. And I think I shall be streaming it in Korean, gentlemen. It sounded way better. The voice acting in English is not great.
Voice acting. Yeah, Korean voice actors are great.
Oh, but man, the girl, not even Eve, the other girl that's in the opening sequence, it's just, God.
Wow.
Waifu
I saw the trailer.
child.
Yeah.
Like,
There's a lot of
she's
waifu in the
wonderful.
trailer. Yeah.
It's like the girl with the fire sword thing. Like she's
amazing.
Taki is her name. Man.
Taki's from Soul Calibur.
No, a different Taki. I think it's Tachy. Like Tachyon.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't know if it's like an English name or if it is supposed to be a Korean name, but yeah, no, Stellar Blade looks good, and like again, a similar deal with Liza P, where they released a demo where you can pick up on your save file once the game comes out, and it's one sub boss and one main boss, and then so they advertised it very similar to Liza P. They did not make the smart choice and just release it on fucking everything and put it on Game Pass so that just everyone's going to be playing Stellar Blade. Instead, as a PS exclusive, they got a big chunk of change, and now half the world isn't going to play the game. Awesome.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's what they did.
Yeah.
Same thing with Rise of Ronin too.
Yeah, those games need PC ports ASAP. Like Rise of Ronin got devoured by Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah,
like no one was talking about Rise of Ronin.
I know. Well, actually, Asmongold or somebody, Charlie Moist Critical was playing it. His whole community was playing it because he couldn't play Dogma because his game kept crashing.
So my number one is Crusader Kings 2: AGOT.
Okay.
Game of Thrones.
A Game of Thrones. Yes.
Oh, Game of Thrones edition.
So it is a total conversion, a lot like Empire at War. It is a total conversion of Crusader Kings 2 to take place in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe. Crusader
I'm gonna
Kings,
have to play that.
Yeah, it's different.
Is it easier to learn than 3? Because 3 is a nightmare to learn. I don't even know how to play the game. And I played 30 hours, and I still don't know how to play the game, dude. I don't know. I'm probably just stupid. I don't.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
It's
the
hard.
thing, is that Crusader Kings 2 and Crusader Kings 3, are really paradox strategy games in general, like Hearts of Iron 4 and Europa Universalis 4, Victoria 2 and 3 are
I have all those. I'm gonna start playing them
they
soon.
are
but-
what's known as grand strategy games.
Yeah.
Now, grand strategy games are different than 4X games because 4X games tend to be randomized maps. Grand strategy games are more static maps.
Yeah.
There are no real victory conditions in terms of, like, the game doesn't say. Imagine Civilization 5, but there's no culture victory, no science victory, no, like it's like remove the victory conditions. It is a lot more of a sandbox game, and it is minute to minute, hour to hour emergent gameplay. It is also asymmetric, so the game just does things, and you have to react to it. It's not.
Yeah. I played 3.
Yeah. So Crusader Kings 2 AGOT is the Song of Ice and Fire total conversion of Crusader Kings 2. So, to give you an example, so in my Blackfire Rebellion playthrough, I took the throne as House Blackfire, and my mother, Dowager Queen Dana Targaryen, known as Dana the Defiant, somehow got her hands on a dragon egg. I don't know how she got her hands on one, but she did. And she tried to hatch it, and she was actually successful.
Oh wow.
So she just had a dragon for like 5 years until it died young. I didn't tell the game to do that. I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah.
I just received notifications like, "Hey, sire, your mom hatched a dragon."
That sounds like those randomized events in the third game, sort of.
Yes, so the randomized events, things just happened. It's very sandbox, and it's, again, asymmetric, static map, no victory condition. And it is the best A Song of Ice and Fire game ever released. Like, it is the pinnacle of that universe.
That makes sense, because there aren't really too many good ones.
No. And the thing is,
Are there any good ones?
Well,
the Telltale.
The Telltale one game is fine, but the thing is that Crusader Kings as a game fits very well in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe. So, because the thing is that Crusader Kings 2 is not only a grand strategy game, but it also has RPG elements. Because you're kind of role-playing a king or a prince or a lord of some house. And so, kind of setup for this is that I actually downloaded the game. Oh my god! Like, I was in college. This was when season 5 of Game of Thrones came out, and I was so burned on season 5 of Game of Thrones. I was like, "This is so fucking terrible! Holy shit!" Like, everything about Dorne is wrong. Why is Ilaria Sand trying to murder Marcella? What is going on? And I was so burned, I was like, is there any good A Song of Ice and Fire video game? And I kept seeing CK2 AGOT pop up time and time again. And I kind of bounced off it like you did, Lofty. I didn't even do 20 hours. I did, I think, all of 20 minutes as Tywin Lannister. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know any of the tabs, and I bounced out. And I didn't touch it for years after that. So last year,
how did you get back into it? Yeah.
So here's the thing. Last year, about March, I was getting the bug again because I had recently did a re-listen of the Duncan Egg novellas, which are just fantastic, by the way. That's a great Audible purchase right there. Like it is so good.
So I thought I was muted. I was reaching over to unmute and I ended up hitting my mic.
Yeah. No, the Duncan Egg novellas are narrated by what's his name? He's Viserys Targaryen in the show.
Did Martin write those?
Yes.
Patty Considine?
No, not that Viserys. The Viserys from Game of Thrones, the young guy.
Oh, okay.
He narrates them. And he's a great narrator. So the Duncan Egg novellas are, I think they're like 100 years before the start of the main series or something like that. Like they're a ways back. And so they're prequel novellas, and they're really, really good.
I think they're a few hundred years.
Yeah,
I think, that's
so
Duncan. Is it Duncan the second? Sorry, Aegon the second.
no, it's Aegon the Fifth, Aegon the Unlikely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Then it is probably
no,
closer.
it's not 200 years. It's like it might even be like 50 years. It bumps up towards the start of the main series because Summerhall happens, and that's when Rhaegar Targaryen is born. So, yeah. But anyway,
okay. Yeah. So it's
so I did my re-listen last year, and I'm like, I'm getting that bug again. I want to play a Song of Ice and Fire video game. And I'm like, and Crusader Kings 2 is looking at me dead in the face, like last played 2017, like 25 minutes. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hit play. I'm just going to play as a minor house. I want to play as the Tarleys. And I'm just going to learn the mechanics naturally. And that playthrough lasted, I want to say like 10 hours. And I really got a feel for the game. And now I have over 370 hours in it.
Wow.
Which for a Paradox player is still barely scratching the surface.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so my current playthrough is the Blackfire playthrough, where I am currently playing as King Daemon II, Blackfire. His father, Lucerys, disappeared while venturing into Valyria to try to find knowledge in terms of how to hatch dragons, because my family now has 2 dragon eggs. No way to hatch them though. We could try, but we'd probably just burn ourselves. So he went out looking for knowledge, disappeared without a trace.
That game would be much better if you've read all the novels.
Yeah, the thing is that it is not based on the TV show. It is, even though it's called a Game of Thrones, it is based on the A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
No, so really, you'll get a lot out of it if you've read Fire and Blood, or the World of
Fire and Blood.
Yeah.
So if you've read Fire and Blood, and if you've read like the World of A Song of Ice and Fire, you'll get a lot out of it.
Haven't read that one.
The Duncan Egg novellas, you'll get a lot out of it, or the main series, you'll get a lot out of it, because the thing is, you can choose your start date. Yeah. So you can choose the Dance of Dragons, so you can choose to play as Aegon II or Rhaenyra. You can choose Aegon's Conquest, where you play as Aegon the Conqueror, or anybody defending against Aegon. You don't have to play as Aegon. You can play as the Gardeners if you want to. Yeah. You can play during the first Blackfire Rebellion, right? But you don't have to play as Daemon Blackfire. You can play as Daeron II. Like, you don't have to play as Daemon. In fact, you don't have to play as a Blackfire or a Targaryen at all. You can play as Leo Tyrell, or Damian Lannister, or I can't remember the name of the Baratheon at that time period, but you could play as that guy if you wanted to. Or you could play as the Bobby B. You could play as Robert Baratheon before the Clash of Kings. So you could just play as Bobby B and play as him until he dies, and then play as his son. And so you can just kind of do that. You could play Robert's Rebellion. You could play as Aerys. You could play as Rhaegar, or you could play as Robert. Or you could play the Clash of Kings, and again you could play as Joffrey. You could play as Stannis the Manus, which is you want to play as the Chat Alpha, so you play as Stannis.
Wow.
Or you could play as Renly, and maybe you won't get murdered.
How's the gay sex scene in the game?
Well, that's the thing, is that you can. That's the thing, is there are tags for being homosexual. You can still sire children, but
just like
you're
Crusader Kings now.
Yeah.
3. I mean, with the new updates, they fucking added. They were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We'll add that now." It's like, oh, really? You're gonna add gay couples with kids? How does that work?
Yeah, you can do that in Crusader Kings 2 had the same mechanics. The thing is that you can still sire children. You're just not totally jazzed with it, and I don't think the game gives you the ability to fall in love with your wife, which is super detrimental. Because getting the option to fall in love with your wife is
you can have a concubine?
You can.
Yeah,
you can. Yeah, you can.
Moral of the story is don't be gay.
You can take lovers and you can take lovers and stuff. Because so for example, Daemon, my son, Daemon, not Daemon Blackfire, but Daemon, the son of Daemon. It's confusing, but he was homosexual, and I wed him to Alysanne Osgray, and they still had 6 children. So
Oh,
like,
I mean, yeah.
so like the thing is that like just because the character's gay, like he'll still like do his duty as a prince, you know, but he's
Yeah.
not going to be too jazzed about it. He definitely didn't love her. But the thing is that it's so helpful for you to fall in love with your spouse because having children is so much easier. Because the thing is, you can actually like specifically have sex with her like every year, like for the specific reason of like
for
I want
high
to have
frequency.
try to get you pregnant, like so that you can like right click on your wife and scroll down the options to visit bedchamber. So you can't do that if you're not also her lover.
Oh yeah.
So if you're her wife, if she is your wife but she is also your lover, i.e. you know you've fallen in love with her, you can visit her bedchamber, and that is such a helpful thing to do. Because it is so much easier to have multiple children. Like, I want to say Lucerys had like 9 children with Cassandra Rain.
Jeez.
Yeah, just an insane amount of children. So like, betroth them early and get her into your court early so they can spend a lot of time together, because it's way more likely that they'll love each other by the time they get married.
Nice.
Yeah.
Marriage good. What do you
Yeah.
think about that, puppy?
Yeah, so, but the thing is that a lot of things about Crusader Kings is that like because it's a grand strategy game, a lot of the things are it's not ground level. Like the characters are portraits in Crusader Kings 2. Now Crusader Kings 3 they're full body, like they're full body profiles, and that's really cool. But because Crusader Kings 3 AGOT is already out. It's not as developed as CK2 AGOT because CK2 AGOT had a development time of 10 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Crusader Kings 3 AGOT is not nearly at that level yet. But there are submods, by the way. There are submods for the mod. So there's Congenial Overhaul, More Bloodlines, Knights of the White Tower, Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things. There's so many great submods for AGOT. So like Knights of the Sword Tower, or is it Knights of the White? I think it's Knights of the Sword Tower actually. I think I misspoke when I said White Tower. I think it's called Sword Tower, where your Kingsguard get more character and they can go on quests and you can order them to perform additional tasks. You'll have random story pop-ups of like your Kingsguard can earn renown. So like if your Kingsguard is, you specifically hire people that are like honorable knights and are like basically Chad profile memes, right? If you hire those guys, they will increase your renown as a ruler because they are well renowned. Where if you just hire some random asshole, they'll probably not perform well, and that can harm your renown. So yeah, it is I heard it described as the greatest A Song of Ice and Fire fan fiction generator the world has ever seen. And you know what?
Yeah, it
That's
sounds like
kind of true.
Well, that's what Crusader Kings does with history in general.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where it's like your Holy Roman Empire, but what happens?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I need to figure out how to learn Crusader Kings.
It is complicated.
confusing.
I mean,
And I don't like it. I don't like not knowing how to go to war, and then I get frustrated, and then I quit.
yeah.
You know.
Well, because see, that's the thing is that in Crusader Kings, I would almost argue that like if you're in a war, you're borderline playing the game badly.
Yeah.
Because like the thing about Crusader Kings, especially Crusader Kings,
unless you're doing early tribes in Crusader Kings 3, you kind of have to go to war.
well, yeah, that's true. But like, like if you're playing the Holy Roman Empire,
Right.
like keeping the empire together is kind of like your main goal, and if you're constantly warmongering, you're kind of fucking up. It's kind of the same thing with Crusader Kings 2 AGOT, where like war is important. And like, so for example, like I decided that I would be someone who would always support the Night's Watch. So like sometimes you'll get a raven will fly south from the wall and say like, hey, there's a king beyond the wall and we kind of need help. So you can choose to ignore them, be like, yeah, fucking whatever, you deal with it yourself. Or you can be like, men, we ride north at dawn. And so you basically strike the banners, and you're never going to lose because it's always like 10,000 people versus an army of 40,000. Because if you as a king call your banners, you're going to have this massive army marching north. You will never lose. You will never lose. So an interesting story with that is that I beat a king beyond the wall, and I took his 4 daughters as hostages. But they're under house arrest, and they actually ended up getting tutored by the court tutor. So they actually all converted to the faith of the Seven. Again, I didn't ask for them to convert. I didn't demand that they convert. The character just decided that they would convert.
Yeah. There's probably ways to prevent it, but it's just too complicated to like know the meta of the game. Like,
Yeah.
maybe after 1,000 hours.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So I think his name was Donald Darklin, who was the head of House Darklin, who was like maybe one of the most powerful Crownlands families. He was one of my commanders. He marched north with his children, specifically Alyssa Darkland and her younger brother Dennis Darkland, I think. So they went north of the wall, and there was some sort of like old god shit that went down because they came back with magic crows, essentially, and Alyssa and her brother converted to the old god's faith. And in fact, Alyssa became a warg and a greenseer. So then I made her my master of whispers because, like, well, damn, that's valuable.
Yeah, that's very role play.
Yeah.
Oriented. That sounds fun.
Yeah. It's super fun because, like, again, I didn't ask the game to do that. I didn't tell the game, hey, make Alyssa Darklin of all people a fucking greenseer and a skin-changing warg. The game was like, yeah, she's that way now. She has green dreams and shit. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's kind of cool. I'm going to make her her master of whispers. So I had to fire the old one, which upset members of my council because they were like, hey, you can't fire. I think his name was like Andrin Cressy, I think. Another Crownlands family. And they were like, hey, you can't fire him unjustly. Because, again, you can't, even as the king, you can't just fire members of your small council just willy-nilly. Like, they have to commit treason or join a faction against you. You can't just fire them. I chose to do so because I wanted Alyssa as master of whispers because, you know, she's a fucking warg. So, you know, she can warg into rats and shit and crawl into people's rooms. Like, I want her as, like, I can't think of a better master of whispers. But other members of the council weren't too keen on that. Like, my Master of Laws and my Hand of the King, Ronald Hayford, were like, bro, don't do that. You can't do that.
So you think this is better than Baldur's Gate for your
Yeah.
your experience playing it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It is essentially what if Baldur's Gate 3 was different every time you booted it up.
Yeah, well,
because
I mean,
that's the thing.
Besides the class changes and the construction of your team.
Yeah, I mean, like, the characters change, the story changes. I'm talking about that level of.
Oh yeah.
Because the thing is like.
Well, that's why people love Crusader Kings and.
It's so good because
those games.
Because the thing is, if I had booted up, I didn't even get into Agor Rivers. Like, there's so much. So because like. If I had booted up, I could boot this up right now before I went to bed and start the Blackfire Rebellion again. It would turn out differently.
Yeah.
People would die that didn't die the first time.
You could be Ned Stark and shit. And
yeah, you could be Ned Stark. In fact, there's a really cool way to play Ned Stark. Is you choose Clash of Kings, but then choose custom bookmark. You rewind the clock a month when you're still imprisoned. You call for a trial by combat and name Howland Reed as your champion.
Oh, wow.
Howland will usually win. And then you go back north and you can join Stannis in his war for the throne.
That's crazy.
Or you could do what I tried, which was Good Guy Joffrey. I lasted 2 hours. There was an attempted assassination, which I avoided, and then I was assassinated the second time. And
good.
Yeah, I died.
Fuck Joffrey.
Here's the thing, though. So here's the thing. Well, I'm gonna try doing Good Guy Joffrey again. I was everyone's being mean to Good King Joffrey. So here's the thing. I had the option to marry Marjorie, and I said no because I love Sansa. So I married Sansa for love, and Sansa became my lover. Straight up. So
Sucks-
sometimes you
sucks
gotta
to-
fumble a bad bitch to be a good boy. So obviously the Tyrells were not too happy with me. My mother was not too happy with me. Tywin was not too happy with me because I didn't execute Ned Stark. I released him and sent him back to Winterfell. Because I'm a good kid. I'm a good boy. Like, look at my badge. It says good boy right here in High Valyrian. Whatever. It says good boy. Um, basically, I did everything against my own self-interest just to be a good boy. And everybody still hated me. Everybody still hates you as Joffrey. You can be the bestest boy ever, and people still fucking hate your guts. It is hilarious. Playing Good King Joffrey is like seeing how long you can last until someone assassinates you.
It's because he's an ugly fuck.
The
piece of shit.
But you
Even
know
if he's
what?
good.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? Robb Stark and me became close friends.
Oh my god.
I became close, good friends with Robb Stark, even though his father, Ned, still fucking hated me.
Damn.
Oh, yeah, so ultimate A Song of Ice and Fire fanfic generator. It is amazing.
Wow. So there was the number one was yours was an old game with a mod. Mine was a manga.
Mm-hmm.
What was yours, Mark? Oh, Liza P.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sort of like you could say it's Berserk inspired.
Yeah, and plus, you know,
like
Pinocchio's an old story.
Yeah.
Pinocchio's an old story. There you go. What we do here, gentlemen. What we do here, gentlemen, is we go back.
Yeah.
With that said,
well, I meant Berserk inspired Dark Souls.
Well,
which
yeah.
At Liza P.
Yeah. But yeah, that is my number one. I and again, I didn't even get into Aegor Rivers and the fact that he tried to murder somebody, and I had to break a betrothal with him, and I didn't exile him. I basically said, like, start a mercenary company, because I'm thinking, like, that's all you're good for, dude. Get out of here. So I broke his betrothal with my daughter, by the way, Calla, and I wed her to Weimar Strickland, and it's a whole thing. And by the way, I'm actually writing my own version of Fire and Blood, by the way, for this playthrough. It is 10 pages long right now, and it already has like 10 or 20 paragraphs worth of notes.
Huh.
Yeah, so that's the other thing, is you can essentially recount your own history as it happens. So essentially I can take screenshots of interesting things that happen as they happen, and the game actually has a chronicle. So the thing is, when you resign, you can open your chronicle, and it will give you like the important or key events that happened, like you went to war with this person and you won, or because like, so Lucerys, he started an alliance with Lys because he wed his eldest son Daemon, who's Daemon II, that's who I'm playing as right now, to Mishara or Malan, I think is her name. Like, she's a Lyseni. She's the daughter of the Magister. And he's like, hey, so I need your help with this war. And I'm like, shit, that's all you had to say. So I went to war in fucking Essos, which was badass because no one had gone to war in Essos before, and so that was kind of kick ass. Yeah, it's so much. So yeah, it's amazing. I could literally probably talk another 2 to 3 hours about this one playthrough. I didn't even get into Chad Titos Lannister playthroughs, which you can do, because like Titos Lannister is the famously weak, like beta cuck, limp-wristed little shit that is Tywin's father. So you can turn him into
just in the event that we're about to get off on the 2-hour journey, I do not have that much time.
Yeah, no, we're not.
Yeah.
No, we're not. What I'm saying is that I could spend another 2 hours alone just talking about my Blackfire playthrough without even mentioning like Chad Titos Lannister, which is a whole other thing. Yeah. So
Yeah, just
you should
roll a camera and talk about the entire thing.
Yeah.
Stream the story.
Yeah, honestly, I might.
Roleplay.
I might, because yeah, it's you know who does that is JJL Gaming. So JJL Gaming does that. He does his own recountings of his playthroughs, which are actually pretty normal with CK2 players. They're called AARs, or after action reports, where you essentially recount your story. But
Oh wow.
yeah, it's amazing. I fucking love Crusader Kings 2 AGOT. So I'm probably gonna play it tomorrow once I get off work.
Nice.
But yeah, so we have been going for almost 3.5 hours, so I think it's a good time to
go.
call it.
Yeah,
But,
sounds good to me.
Yeah, but it has been
2023.
Oh,
yep 2020 yeah 2023 is a wrap, and it was a good ass year. But
It was
Yeah.
good for anime, gaming, and movies
yeah, it was incredible.
and shows.
But with that, I will leave you with that. But yeah, signing off. But take care, guys.
See you guys.
later.